My lord, the draft is 24, well, a little over 24 hours away. I can't wait. I know you can't wait. We got a special guest, my guy Alex Monfreda. Today we're going to talk Raiders draft. We're going to play a little devil's advocate with GM and head coach. We're going to do a Raiders mock draft for you and, just talk about draft stuff. So make sure y'all pull up, pack it in. Let's get unleashed, yo.
Raiders Unleashed. The Rebellion. Raiders Unleashed on the screen. Hit that subscribe. It's the RaidersRebel in the building. Silver and black. 2026. Yeah. Welcome to the desert. You know what time it is. Raiders Unleashed on the screen. Hit that subscribe. It's the RaidersRebel in the building. Silver and black. 2026. Let's go! Left the bay for the lights, now we lighting up the strip. A legion in the desert, yeah, we built a mothership. No more dirt on the diamond, no more Coliseum rain. Just a blacked out dome where we deal out the pain. We're the villains of the league, always been the outcast. Built on Al Davis' ghost and we're built to outlast. The torch is still burning, it's a lifestyle, a creed. In the city of sin, we're the only ones you need. Silver and black is back, check the throne. The Raiders got a new home in the dome. The nation is rising, we're coming for everyone. Forget the other 31, we're the only ones. Yeah, we're unleashed. Rebel with the vision, Raider nation worldwide. Making that precision, one mission, one pride. Until the game is won, fuck the other 31. We're second to none. Check the box office, yeah, the leadership is changing. Tom Brady in the office, things are rearranging. The GOAT is a minority owner, that's a fact. Bringing that winning DNA, no turning back. From the field to the booth, now he's part of the shield. Watching from the suite while we're dominant on the field. The rebels on the mic, Raiders Unleashed on the tube. Giving you the raw truth, we don't move like a rube. I'm a rebel with a cause, and the cause is the win. Blacking out the sun, let the nightmare begin. Chiefs, boats, and the ponies, they can all catch a fade. They're just stepping stones for the history we made. From the pirate on the helmet to the patch on the eye. We're the heartbeat of Vegas under that desert sky. Turn the volume up high, let the channel go live. In the Raider Nation, only the strongest survive. Silver and black is back, check the throne. The Raiders got a new home in the dome. The nation is rising, we're coming for everyone. Forget the other 31, we're the only ones. Yeah, we're unleashed. Rebel with the vision, Raider nation worldwide. Making that precision, one mission, one pride. Until the game is won, fuck the other 31. We're second to none. You hear the RAIDERS chant. They thought we'd go soft in the desert, they can't. We brought the autumn wind to the 702. The rebel and unleashed, coming straight for you. Raiders Unleashed, you know where to find us. Raiders World, keeping it 100. Vegas is ours, the dome is ours. Your shield is forever. Sound of a sword clashing, fade to silence.
Yo, what will I think I just lost connection. Man, we got a special guest today, Alex Monfreda. We're gonna talk Raider ball. We're gonna do some drafts. You know what to do. Let's get into it. My guy. What's good, my brother?
What's going on, Rebel, dude? We almost lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I think I lost service. I think everything cut out right at the end. They're working across the street trying to put some fiber in so they can speed up my internet because, it's been slow as heck out here in the country where we at. So they're actually putting some fiber lines in across the street, and they just happen to be working on it on the day I got my guy on the show. So if we lose everybody, I'm sorry. I apologize. We'll have to reset up, but I hope that doesn't happen again, man, because yeah, my heart's beating 100 miles an hour. I was like, come on, right now. So, yeah, man, how's it going? You ready for the draft?
Oh, man, always ready for the draft. The draft is, for me, I think it's maybe cooler than the Super Bowl. I mean, cooler than the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? I look forward to it more now.
It's like Christmas to me, man. I'm a draft fanatic, so.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm definitely ready for it. How you feeling about it?
Man, I'm my heart's beating 100 miles an hour for a 51-year-old man. Got the blood pressure up. It's a good thing I'm not there because I'd be probably wilding out and acting a fool. So it's a good thing I stayed home. I've been telling I was this close. Me and Candy Angel was gonna go to the draft to show up. She has a Rated 2 channel as well. So we was gonna roll up there, and we were this close to buying VIP tickets. And then the last minute, it was kind of hard getting a room, and everything kind of fell off. And then Mendoza said he wasn't going. I was like, man, I guess everything happens for a reason. So yeah. How you feeling? How you feeling about the number 1 pick? Is it Mendoza?
Yeah, so I actually kind of been in the minority about this stance. And now, I mean, obviously everybody agrees now, but I want to say since early December, it was clear to me, very clear to me since about early December, maybe even a little before, that Mendoza was guaranteed the first overall pick. And I think at the time when I thought this, the Giants actually held the first round pick, and I didn't expect them to take a quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I expected someone to trade up, but I thought it was just clear cut and obvious. And then after that, you got the Ohio State game, and then you got the playoffs, and then forget about it, right? His stock is through the roof. But all that to say, it's Mendoza. I mean, I don't think that's a surprise to anybody.
Yeah, I just feel, I hear a lot of nation talk about, trade back, and that's great, right? I was on trade back team from the beginning. I feel like when you have the number 1 pick, there's just so much value to it. If you can get 2 picks in the first round, or if you can get 2 picks in next year's first round, it's supposed to be a great draft. There's just so much value to it, but it just so happens that there's not a lot of blue chip talent or value in this draft. I mean, Jeremiah Love, not too many people want to move up and, take a running back that early. So, you only got 1 quarterback, and it's just that Raider curse just keeps hanging over our head. Once for the 3rd time in Raider history, we get the number 1 pick, and there's 1 quarterback. There's, no blue chips. It's basically, you stick and pick, or you make a stupid trade and let this guy go somewhere else and probably, be one of them ones. So the Raiders are just in that spot, and I feel like they're going to take him. I think they kind of fell in love with him the more they talk to him. Everybody says he doesn't have that number 1 trait, or, he doesn't have that trait, but I totally disagree, right? Mental is the strongest thing you can have as a quarterback or as a player. And he has that mental, and that's a number 1 strength for anyone as a quarterback, because everybody knows that 1 interception and you're ducking your head, 2 interceptions, you got those guys that thrown 3, 4, 5 interceptions in a game, and it's ruined them for the rest of their life. So, when you have that strong mental capacity, when you have that leadership, everybody in the locker room loves him. Everybody that meets him and talks to him loves him. He's a humble guy. He's, respectful. He's family first. So, I think all those are traits that people are overlooking. So, you can say you don't have football traits, but come on, man, the kid's got a strong arm. He spins the ball every time it comes out. It's on a spiral. There's no flob to it. Maybe after 40 yards, it starts to, dip a little bit, but you don't have to throw the ball 40 yards every time in the NFL. So I think that's the pick. They'd be foolish not to take him. And, the critics are going to be the critics. Ty Simpson is better. I just don't see how a kid with 13 starts in college football could be better than a guy that has 35, right? It just doesn't make sense to me. So maybe over time, maybe the 6'2" quarterback that weighs 210 pounds soaking wet, nothing against Ty Simpson, but it's just not the way the NFL is going. We see, Jaden Daniels was very light. How long has he, how many games has he missed? So you got to be, bigger in this day and age, whether you run the ball or not. Guys like Caleb Williams, they're just thicker, they're built better. So a guy that won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, right? Benches 9,000 pounds, our squats 9,000 pounds, he's got that lower body. So you got to have the body to play quarterback in the NFL. And I think Mendoza has that. So.
Yeah, no, I like what you said about the mental toughness, specifically as it relates to, because a lot of guys in the NFL are mentally tough. I mean, that's how a lot of them get there in the first place. But there's a difference between being mentally tough and being at the level of mental toughness where you make a mistake and you kind of embrace it. And you're like, you know what? Like, all right, I made a mistake. I don't care about that. That was yesterday's news. We're on to today.
Yeah, even though it was go out and make a play, right?
And we saw that from Mendoza game after game after game. This is the thing that I love about Mendoza. When people pick apart like the big games, like before the playoffs, right? Because this was all the talk before the playoffs, where he went on that insane run. You got OSU, you got Penn State, you got Iowa. Everybody's like, the interception, he threw an interception each game against one. I'm like, I don't care about that. I care
he has
about
6 all year. Shut up.
I care about the
Come
fact
on, man.
In every single one of those games, he threw an interception. And on the very next drive, he came out there and he said, I mean, what am I going to do? Cry about it? Hell no. I'm going to just get back out there and I'm going to win this game. And what did he do? He won every single one of those games. Not 90%, not 95%, not 99%, 100% of those games he won. And
he came out against Ohio State and got smacked in the mouth, bro. You know, came off and came back out and was like, yo, let's do this.
And I think this is very big when you're talking about, especially for the Raiders, because, man, you could say for the first half of Derek Carr's career, he had a lot of that. But towards the latter end of his Raiders tenure specifically, that kind of went away. And when he started making mistakes, he really got into a little bit of a shell, right? And I'm not talking about anything arm talent or anything like that related. I'm just talking about the mental, when you make a mistake, what happens next? We saw that from Derek Carr, the latter half of his career, at least with the Raiders, maybe before then. He makes a mistake, he starts getting into a shell. We saw that with Garoppolo. We saw that. We didn't really see that with Geno. Probably wish we would have seen that with Geno, to be honest with you. But
I wish I would have never seen Geno. I tried to warn the nation, man. I tried. I was like, this dude is not it. But, you know, they don't listen. It's fine.
You see it with every single Hoyer. You saw it with Garoppolo, like I said. You've seen it with O'Connell. I mean, O'Connell was kind of not really a shot taker, which is all right anyway. But saw it with Aiden. You saw it with every single guy, at least from the latter half of Derek Carr's career with the Raiders onward. You've seen it with every single guy who does not have that. Now Mendoza's coming in, and I got to say this too, that everybody likes to say, you know, if Arch Manning was in this draft and stuff, we wouldn't be talking about Mendoza. I actually think that, and I'm not saying Mendoza is Tom Brady. Please do not misunderstand that. But I think Mendoza is so Tom Brady-like, just the way he approaches the game and just the way he wants to win. Because he has arm talent and he has arm strength, but he doesn't want to win with that. He wants to win with his mental. And I think that is so similar to Brady and Spytek being so close with Brady that even if Arch Manning was in this class, I think they would just be so drawn to Mendoza anyway. Not to say Mendoza is necessarily the better prospect. Do I think he is? He might be, but I'm not trying to say that argument.
I just think the accuracy, Raiders, you know, and the kid's still young, right? He's got plenty of time. Like, same thing absolutely. With Simpson. He should have just stayed in school, man. Like, absolutely. I didn't mean to cut you off, but to take a chance, you know, to make all the money you could have made, up to $9 million or something crazy. I think Miami was trying to give Ty Simpson to stay in school, and you're going to take a chance of being a second overall pick. And, you know, for the next 3-4 years, you're making not even a quarter of that.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I honestly, the Ty Simpson discourse is funny because I actually think at this point, he's probably a little underrated. And I only say that because with the way Dan Orlovsky talked about him, you know, he became overrated very quickly, obviously. And then everybody was like, oh, Ty Simpson, so bad. He's not even draftable. And it's like, hold on a second. He's not that. Like, you're almost being like Dan Orlovsky, but in the other end of the spectrum right now.
Yeah,
you know?
Right. Yeah.
So I think he's actually kind of become somewhat underrated at this point. But Mendoza, in comparison to Ty Simpson, it's not really much of a comparison, you know.
No, you got a guy that's got 35 starts. You got a guy that's got 13. Yeah, I know. You know, he sat for 2 years, you know, against Nick Saban's defense, and I'm sure he was on the practice squad, you know, when Jalen Milroe was that guy. But Bryce Young wasn't Bryce Young in front of him. Also, he was, I think, a freshman then, I do believe. So I could be wrong, but you know, he sat in that Nick Saban defense, and he was on the practice squad there. But you know, 13 games, man. And you hear all the talk, oh, but he was the best player in football, you know, for the first 8 games. Yeah, but then he got hurt. And if he was, you know, wasn't able to go out there and, you know, help his team, then you shouldn't have been out there, right? You shouldn't have been out there. You should have, you know, let somebody else play, man. Took the year off or whatever in many games till you were healthy. Then, you know, the gastritis thing, he lost a bunch of weight. But, you know, that happens. That's not an excuse. And the point is yes, he could be a first-round pick, definitely, but not this year. I mean, even with the small quarterback class, I would be surprised if he goes in the first round. And matter of fact, I'd be surprised if somebody doesn't take Carson Beck before him. I mean, this kid was in a national championship game. He has more starts than anybody in college football right now. He played for Georgia. I mean, the kid, he has the arm strength. He can, get stronger, I think, but he has decent arm strength, right? He's intelligent. He knows how to read defenses. He can play under center. He can play under the gun, and I think he's the most quarterback ready. And I wouldn't be surprised if a team like the Arizona Cardinals, jump up and try to take him instead of a Ty Simpson, because it's just, no matter how good you're going to be, do you really take a quarterback in the first round that has to sit maybe 2 years, right? Because, I mean, think about it. If you look at his games, even in the second half and, but before that, the ball sails a lot on him. Sometimes he makes, his interceptions are like Taylor Green interceptions, to be honest. You're like, why would you throw that? What are you looking? What are you seeing that made you think you could throw that ball? You know what I mean? I see that all the time with him. And that's Taylor Green's problem. But, you just need more time in college football. You had that senior year. Take it, man. Take it. You're going to make more money there. And unless somebody was telling him, hey, look, we're going to take you in the first round, I just don't see why Ty Simpson would take a chance of coming out. It just didn't make sense.
Yeah, and to what you just said, I think that is the biggest differential between Ty Simpson and Mendoza. That, like, forget the physical talent side by side. I actually think Mendoza's physical talent is extremely underrated. I think he has above average. I mean, his arm strength is slightly above average, probably. His arm talent is actually really, really good. Like, we're talking about ability to make different types of throws, different levels of NFL throws, touch and all that stuff, how hard you drive the ball when you need to drive it. Mendoza's really, really good at these things, like probably the best in the class. And well, he has to be the best in the class. Not that that's saying too much, honestly. But
yeah, what class?
I
I think this class is underrated, honestly. I mean, I think Cade Klubnik, is a guy that could definitely give some teams some starts. If you look around the league, I mean, come on, Teddy Bridgewater, is starting to do it. I mean, there's been guys that, Brissett over there starting for the Cardinals, an interception machine. Like Geno Smith is going to start. I mean, if you're telling me that Cade Klubnik or Drew Allar can't do better than Geno Smith in an NFL offense, I have to argue that. I really do. Like, Drew Allar was one of those dudes that everybody was saying was a first round pick 2 years ago. He got hurt. He had some problems. Nussmeier, like, how did these dudes just forget football? You have a couple bad games and the critics are like, oh, you're not a first round pick, or you're not even a second round pick. Now you're going to drop to the third, which that's fine. If they drop to the third, somebody gets a first round talent dropping to the third. And in my opinion, I believe a lot of these guys are first round talents. If you look at other drafts that have taken guys in the first round, I'm going, what? He was a first round pick, but Drew Allar's not, right? Like, Carson Beck is not a dude that's made it to, I mean, how many national championship games has he played in? Or, how many playoffs games he's played in? Like, how many big games, SEC games he played in? So I just don't get it. I think if you're looking for a quarterback in this draft, there's a bunch. But let me get to this question real quick, and shout out to everybody in the building. And I'm not ignoring you. When there's people on, we got to do. But Graham, Candy Angel, Greg Brewer, appreciate all y'all. If anybody I miss, where'd that comment go? Damn it. I found it somewhere. All right. Nope, this one. My guy Rosetown says, I see the Cardinals tanking Simpson. Let me ask you this, right? Now, everybody on this channel knows I was a huge Mike LaFleur guy. I still am. I think Mike LaFleur is going to be a damn good coach in this league. And if you look at his past, right, he had a quarterback in New York in Zach Wilson, who I do believe kind of resembles Ty Simpson to me. Just to me, college, size, height, right? Kind of the same thing. So do you see him really moving back up into the first round to take a 6'2" quarterback and a Ty Simpson who could be that guy, when he's seen what Matthew Stafford does for the Rams? You know what I mean? Like, are you really willing to take a guy that even Ty Simpson said, I like to hold the ball. I like to let plays develop. And on the Gruden thing, I was like, wait, what? Bro, you got to throw the ball quick. This is the end. You're going to the NFL. You got less than 3 seconds to get the ball out of your hands. You don't have time to let plays develop. You got to throw with anticipation. And I'm not saying that he can't, but I just feel like there's a lot of quarterbacks being underrated in this draft that a lot of teams are going to be happy. You let some of these guys sit like a Allar for a year, or the Ty Simpson. And just looking at the history, you looking at the history of guys that were taken that only played 13 games, 15 games, right? They never panned out in the NFL. It's too much. You don't have time to learn when you're a third string quarterback. You're not getting play time. You're not getting practice time. You're sitting on a bench holding a clipboard. So, I don't see a guy like Mike LaFleur moving up to take a guy like a Ty Simpson. I just don't know. To me, I think it'd be one of these bigger quarterbacks like a Drew Allar, which might be a crazy take, maybe a Drew Allar, maybe a Carson Beck, but I just don't see it with Ty Simpson. And if anybody takes him in the first round, I think it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that's kind of his best bet.
See, I do agree with you when you say this class is really underrated, this quarterback class. And a lot of that is because of the physical talent. You look at a guy like Drew Aller, he has an NFL arm through and through, and he can make all the throws. He has great touch. He has great zip, and he can launch the ball. But it's really the mental makeup with a lot of these guys that I worry about. And I think that is especially where Mendoza does shine in comparison to everybody else, because he's the only one in this class. I mean, a guy like Mendoza, first of all, when I say like he's the only one in this class, a guy like Mendoza who's just so ready and has all that mental makeup only comes around once in a blue moon. I mean, I'd say Mendoza's mental makeup is the best immediately coming out of the draft since Andrew Luck. And again, not to say like he's going to be Andrew Luck or he's as good of a prospect as Luck, but just as far as their mental makeup makes them ready, I think since Andrew Luck. But anybody else in the class, they don't really have any of that. Or I should more accurately say they haven't displayed any of that. If they do have it, they haven't displayed any of it yet. And I think that's a scary proposition. So when we talk about a guy like Drew Aller, he's another guy. Penn State had a lot of weapons, and he's made a lot of throws, and he made a lot of bad throws too. He's made a lot of bad decisions, and then when he makes bad decisions, he comes back and he makes more bad decisions. But that's he's young. They're all young. They're all in college. You can coach that out of people, absolutely. But I think when you're a coach or you're a GM, whatever, they work in tandem, of course, in the draft. That's something you got in the back of your head. That's like, oh man, that's a scary proposition, But again, they don't have to be like that forever. They're young. They haven't played any NFL games yet. But and especially with Ty Simpson and Mendoza specifically. And it's funny because Ty Simpson, son of a head coach, right? And all he knows is formations and all this stuff. And Mendoza is so far ahead of him and by miles and miles.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Mendoza on the, up there on the Gruden show, get up there on the whiteboard like some of those quarterbacks did, because it tells a lot about a quarterback when they get up there and they're drawing, when they get up there sorry to keep cutting you off, but Diego Pavia, he got up there and anything Gruden said, bro, he was like never nothing. And Ty Simpson, was like, so you want me to, they're like looking, had the question, just get up there on the whiteboard and draw, bro. Like, come on, you're a coach's son. You should not have no problem, drawing Y76 Wanda or whatever the hell Coach Gruden wants to run. Like, everybody should know, those plays. So I like that Gruden show, but I would have loved to see Mendoza get on there and, and let him talk and draw, because I like what Gruden does over there.
Yeah, no, it's entertaining for sure. Definitely is.
But yeah, man, so Mendoza sounds like the pick. There's no way. What would it take? I'm put you as GM now, GM. What would it take to move you off that spot? Like, I have just a scenario where what if the Arizona Cardinals called up on the phone and was like, all right, so I have a proposition for you. Would you take who they have over there, the Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr. swap picks and maybe a second or a third. That's your ex wide receiver that you've been looking for. You already have a quarterback in the building, and Kirk Cousins. you get another extra pick, or maybe throw in a second next year.
Yeah. All right. So this is my thing. If I'm the GM and I step into the GM right now, everything that has already happened before today has already happened, and I can't change that. This franchise is on a course right now with all the free agent deals that they made, where they're counting on their quarterback to come in and tie this together and keep everybody in that window. Now, the problem is if you do this deal, you get Marv and you still don't have a quarterback, which is fine because you can always get one, next draft or the draft after that. But you are kind of in a rush at this point because now you've tied yourself to this 3-year window with Quay and with all the free agents that they brought in and all this money. And, 3 years from now, Max is, for all intents and purposes, I can only imagine his body's going to be done. I might be wrong on that. I'm not a doctor and I can't see the future, but that would just be my prediction. And I think that by saying I'm not taking this quarterback now, I'm going to wait, and you're basically blowing that plan up before you even do anything with the plan with the course that you've set yourself on. And that doesn't make sense to me. So no, I would not do that for that reason. I wouldn't even consider that. Now, with all that being said, the thing that might entice me is the Jets. If they said, we'll give you 2, we'll give you, what do they have, the other pick, 16, and we'll give you a first next year, which is insane value. Do I think they would do that? No. But I think that would be the only thing that could really get me to listen. And the only reason why is because if the Jets do all that and take Mendoza, I still think they're a bottom of the league team. And you are looking at a first, second, or third overall pick next year as well, where you can get your quarterback then, and you still are on the same timeline with all the free agents and all that stuff and Max Crosby in the building. And nothing really changes. Plus you get the second overall pick this year and the 16th or whatever they have. That's the only thing I'd really listen to. That makes the Raiders a lot better, I think. The Jets would still have to be bad, and I see no reason why they wouldn't still be bad.
Right.
And other than that, I just couldn't because it doesn't make sense. You, like I said, you built the foundation, you built this course, and then you are just saying you're abandoning the course. If you do the trade with the Cardinals, you are completely abandoning it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
All right, so one more scenario. I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys, and I talked about this yesterday with Tank Noseball, right? They have 2 first-round picks, where they sitting at 10 I'll have to look that up. But anyways, they have 2 first-round picks. We know they wanted Max Crosby, but let's say they have right now the second highest paid center in all of football. He was the highest paid center until Linderbaum signed with the Raiders. They just signed a kicker who is now the highest paid kicker in all of football. And they have a quarterback in Dak Prescott, who is also, I do believe, the highest paid quarterback right now in all of football. If you're Jerry Jones and you're trying to build this team, if you think you can win now, then that's fine. Go at it. But I know Mendoza hasn't had, any top 30 visits with any other team that I know of except for the Raiders. So that's probably not a scenario. But, Jerry Jones always does something crazy. And if somebody in this building says Mendoza's the guy and you could trade Prescott and they threw their 2 first-round picks and maybe a pick next year and say, give us Mendoza.
Man, that's right. All right, so in this specific scenario right here, I think
they could get a bag for Dak if they tried to trade Dak. They're going to get going to get a bag for that. You end up with Mendoza, with Pickens.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is with that the timeline changes completely, and you don't really want a rookie receiver necessarily and wait for him to develop because then years come off the clock and all that stuff. And Dak is, what was he, 31, 32? Around there?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. He's up there getting there.
Yeah, so you don't want to do that. If you were to do that deal and you're looking at the Raiders roster, if I'm the GM and I'm looking at it, and let's just say I'm the Raiders GM and I'm saying I'm going all in, like we're ready right now. And I do that deal, I would need Pickens because, like I said, I don't want to develop a rookie receiver and then, Dak's 35 or whatever he may be by the time the rookie receiver is ready to dominate the league. And then it's like, well, shit, like we have 1 year, maybe our window, like I don't want to do that. So you give me Pickens and man, money would be tight there for the Raiders. You might have to deal max in that trade, but if you can make it work, however you make it work, all right, you get Pickens, you get the 2 first-round picks, and maybe you get a pick next year and Dak, and you trade away Max, because that's the only way I really see it happening money-wise. You trade away Dak and you trade away the first overall pick. It would make sense to me if, like I said, if you are saying this team is ready to win now and we're going all in to do it, it would make sense to me, yeah.
Because I think Jerry Jones just always has, I see him move it up for probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they move up for an Arvell Reese, or Bailey if they fall to 3 with the Cardinals, right? So
yeah,
let's say play Arizona Cardinal GM, right? If you're trying to build the future there and you're sitting at number 3, you can't really take Maui Noah at 3. I don't feel like he's the best, the third best player in this draft, right? So if you're the Cardinals, you probably want to move back. You're not taking a quarterback. I don't think you're taking a receiver, right? You have receivers. You have one of the best tight ends in football. I don't think you need that. Do you pick a running back at that scenario, or is somebody trying to get up to get that running back? That what would it take to move out of that third spot, and who do you think could possibly try to jump in for the Cardinals? Because the news is that they would like to trade back. Now, if David Bailey's there, I could see a team like the Cowboys saying, man, we need that defensive end. We need that pass rush guy. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys try to move up to that third spot.
Yeah, so when it comes to Jeremiah Love, I think he is a very, very good prospect. Very good prospect. Great prospect, even. But I think to talk about him getting drafted in the 3rd round, all right, so the last 3 running back prospects, just prospects, I'm not talking about how their NFL careers panned out or are pandering out so far, but just prospects, Ashton Genty, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs, I think were all better prospects than him. And none of them went top 5. One of them did not go top 10. So with that in mind, why we would think Jeremiah Love, who is still a great prospect, but not as good as those guys, none of them went top 5, why he would go top 3 to me is insane. Now, I understand when it comes to the Cardinals, and it's like, well, this would be the biggest upgrade for them. No, I get that. But I think also if you're the Cardinals, if you're saying like, we could trade back, we could still get him and get more assets, where the Cardinals, we need more talent, which they absolutely do. That makes the most sense. So what would it take to trade back? I think on that note, you're probably, man, I can't think of the order of the draft right now as it relates to what teams have which pick, but probably like, man, you probably want to trade back 5, 6, 7 in that area if that's what you're going to do. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Probably 5, just only 2 spots. That's still going to get you a lot of value, especially I got to imagine the top 3 is, Mendoza and then Reese Bailey in whichever order that they go in, those 2. So a team's going to want to trade up for whichever one doesn't get picked at 2. So if you trade
Cowboys are sitting at 12.
So for the Cowboys to move up,
12 and 20.
I think it takes both 1st-round picks to move up that much. That's a big way to move up.
From 12 to 12, I believe it would take. I would believe it would take both.
And I think that I don't know if that's the best move for the Cardinals necessarily. I think they're going to miss out on a lot of great players who would help their team. But if they were to do that, I think it would take both. Yeah. Maybe even more for the reason that I just said. It might not be worth it for the Cardinals unless they get bigger bang for their buck.
Yeah, I hear that. Because there's a lot of talk about a lot of teams want to move back, right? So I think Arizona Cardinals are one. Looking at their needs right now, it's offensive tackle, it's corner. Wait, that's not them. It's Arizona Cardinals. I don't know why it says wide receiver. But it says quarterback, offensive tackle, secondary needs are wide receiver, linebacker, and edge. So there's not a quarterback you're taking at 3. I don't feel like there's a tackle that you could take at 3. And then their next secondary needs, I don't know why it says wide receiver, but linebacker and edge. I mean, you could take a David Bailey there if he falls, or an Arvell Reese. I mean, that would probably be a damn good pickup.
wide receiver does make a lot of sense to me actually, because Marv to this point, he
hasn't done anything.
He hasn't done anything, and then Michael Floyd is actually really good, especially as a wide receiver too. And then you drop off kind of the face of the earth for Cardinals receivers after that. So it does make a lot of sense to me in that regard. And if you can get a guy who completely changes the offense, now when you have a Trey McBride, you're probably not as worried about the receivers because Trey McBride is essentially the number one passing option. But if you can just theoretically, let's say you do that trade with the Cowboys, right? You get both their first round picks, and let's say a guy like Jordan Tyson, who I think goes 10 to the Giants, to be honest with you, but let's just say he's there at 12. I think that would completely transform the Cardinals offense too. And it makes sense to me for sure.
Yeah, I think, there's going to be some trades, and we'll do a little. Oh, shit, I don't know what just happened. It's just falling down. We'll do a little mock draft here in a bit, but it just seems like the Arizona Cardinals want to trade out of that third spot from everything I'm hearing and everything that all the insiders are posting and talking about. But I don't know who could possibly be that guy, right? Like, or what that team in a draft that, like I said, there's not a lot of blue chips. I don't see anybody, like you said, taking Jeremiah Love at 3 would be crazy in some people's eyes. But then you look at, Bijan Robinson and where he went. And I mean, he just had one of I think the highest totals from, behind yards of scrimmage, like almost 2,300 yards total. So, I think that dude was totally worth a pick there, right? You look at Ashton Genty, almost 1,000 yards behind a horrible offensive line, 10 touchdowns, 5 receiving, 5 out of the backfield. I think the NFL is starting to catch on to the fact that, back in the day, you needed that running back. You need that, and maybe you can get them in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. The Broncos tried to do that, they might be looking for another running back this year, so you just need that guy that's electric. And Jeremiah Love, he can run kick returns, punt returns. I wouldn't put him out there if I'm taking him 3rd overall, but he brings you that aspect where he could. And I mean, they did that with right. They did that with Travion Williams last year, right? Or Travion Henderson last year. So you can put him in that. He can catch out of the backfield. If you have say a young quarterback, a team like the Titans, do they move up one spot, just to get a guy you think's probably going to fall there? So I think this draft is going to be crazy. I think there were five trades in the first round last year. Do you take the over on that or the under?
All right, I'm going to take the under, and the reason why is because I feel like in this draft, let's say from picks damn near 12 to damn near 32, the end of the first round, there's a lot of just evenness, if you will, where I think a lot of teams are going to have a lot of guys rated just about the same, where if their preferred option goes off the board, taking the plan B may not be much of a plan B to them. It may be essentially a A1 or A2, if you know what I'm saying. So for that reason, I don't think there's going to be too many trades, especially, there's always going to be a team. You could say there's always going to be a lot of teams that have a guy. I mean, draft boards are different team to team, right? So you could take, let's say, Omar Cooper. I'm just saying that because that's a random guy who's projected to go anywhere from like 12 to not 12. I mean, even 12 to the end of the round, right? There's going to be a team, I'm sure, who views Omar Cooper higher than all the other teams. And they might be, if he's available, it's like, dude, this is our guy, And there's always going to be an example like that. But for the most part, I don't really see it happening too much after the first X amount of picks. So I think
So if Jeremiah Love's if he's not taken in the top 5 or 6, where does he fall?
So I was actually just looking at the order, and if he doesn't go in the top 6, number 7 is Washington, and I think they probably take him. That's going to help Jaden Daniels out a ton, and it's going to give their offense a lot of. Now, Washington does have a lot of running backs, but they don't have a premier running back, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. But when you have the chance to add one for free, shit, why not?
Right.
And then 8 is the Saints, who just got ETN. They Achan, sorry. Uh, can't really see it, to be honest. 9 Chiefs, I can see it even with Ken Walker. I think that would still be. And then 10 is the Giants again. If he doesn't go, if the Giants don't take him at 5, which they might, but in this scenario they don't, that would make sense to me too. So
I can see the Giants at 5. I've mocked them in a couple mock drafts I did just because you don't know what Cam Scadaboo's injury is. There was talks to him saying that he might retire, I think, before, starting to heal up. You know, they had a running back. The hell's his name? Shit.
Tyrone Tracy.
Tyrone Tracy, he's all
Yeah.
right, but is that the guy, So
He's like a third down back. Yeah.
and if you could get a Jeremiah Love for a Jackson Dart, right? That takes the pressure off of him trying to run all the time. Instead of taking off and running, maybe you just take 2 steps to the side and throw it to Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
Right? It saves you trying to pick up that first down, let your running back go do his job, right? I think that makes more sense than anything. Jeremiah Love to the Giants.
I agree. And that's as I look at this, I said if the Cardinals like trading down, they probably want to go to 5 to 7, I would say, for Jeremiah Love. And I definitely believe that. But even still, you run the risk with the Titans getting Jeremiah Love, which makes sense too. It's not, it's not necessarily the biggest hand and glove fit, but it makes a lot of sense. If you're the Titans, you want to give Cam Ward as much help as possible. Big way to do that is to add a premier running back, and that would make sense. So if you're the Cardinals and Love is your guy, it might make sense to stick and pick him at 3, but I still just can't see it.
I wouldn't be surprised at that. I would see the Arizona Cardinals pulling the trigger there before I seen him taking Ty Simpson, honestly. I mean,
oh yeah.
You might not have a quarterback, but Jacoby Brissett, right? I think he's trying to get more money. There's a problem there. So we know they need a quarterback, but you got Gardner Minshew in the building. Can Gardner give you a bridge quarterback year like he failed to do with the Raiders?
I actually like Jacoby Brissett a lot, and not to say I think he's like this great quarterback or anything, but I think he's like a true leader. He'll take as many hits as possible, and he'll just try his best to get the job done. And I like Jacoby Brissett just fine. Obviously they're going to need a quarterback of the future. It's not Jacoby Brissett. That's not trying to say that at all, but I like him.
I thought he played very well last year. On a team that struggled, that wasn't really the greatest on defense when that was supposed to be their strong suit, right? I think that's why they hired their coach was for the defense. So yeah, that didn't work out too good. Wait, let me see if I can share this. Make this easier on both of us.
McNeil Warren in round 2. I don't know. I wouldn't get your hopes up on that one.
You don't think he makes it to round 2?
Well, I've heard that everybody thinks he's going to be available in round 2, but I just think he's not the safety that the Raiders are even looking for, to be honest with you.
Okay. Why do you say that? Let me change this.
He's more of a Jeremy Chin, and he could easily be a better Jeremy Chin, but the Raiders already have about 3 Jeremy Chins on the roster, and they have about 0 non-Jeremy Chins on the roster. They need non-Jeremy Chins. Jeremy Chin is good at what he does. Don't get me wrong, but he's limited at what he does.
Okay. Right? All right, this needs to be up here. Aha.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know what the hell's going on. All right, so there we go. That helps a little bit. We got team and team needs, biggest needs. So I don't know. I think they're, even with this class, I think if some of these some of these guys start to fall, like the Saints are sitting there at 8, They need a wide receiver. They need an edge. Could they move up and take a David Bailey, or do you think they sit and wait for a guy like Ruben Bain to possibly fall to them? Or do they go Jordan Tyson if he falls, or Cardinal Tate? Like,
yeah, man, it's tough for me to say exactly because I mean I'm sure there's a team out there, if not more than one team, who does have Bain higher than Bailey. And are the Saints that team? I don't know if they, or they might still have Bailey higher, but they might view it as it's so close that it's not worth trading all them assets to go up and grab Bailey, assuming it's Bailey who's even the one to fall to 3. Um, so it's hard for me to answer that. I would say that they probably stay pat there.
Trying to see some of these other teams. The Browns. They need a quarterback. They need offensive line, wide receiver, corner, and edge. Like, and you got Deshaun Watson coming, I guess, back. He's out there throwing, looking pretty decent. Looks better than Shador, right? I seen from what I seen, faster footwork, quicker release. So it just looks like he wants to be out there. Shador looked like he was upset that Deshaun Watson was back. If you ask me personally.
So the Browns, I was thinking about it too. When with the Cardinals on the clock at 3, would they be willing to trade up? And the reason why I even present this at all is the Myles Garrett situation continues to be.
Yes. I was going to ask that as well.
So that would make a lot of sense to me, because then it's like if Myles stays, and if Myles wants to stay, he's the best player on the planet at any position in my eyes. So
I don't see anybody having enough money or trade value to get him.
To me, like if he wants to stay, you're over the moon. You have, let's say it's Bailey who drops to 3, and you do the trade up, right? And then you get Bailey. Then you have Bailey, and you have Myles, and then you have Mason. What was his last name? Mason Graham.
Mason Graham.
Yeah, and that's obviously a great pass rush. And if Myles is like, dude, trade me, like I'm done with this, and okay, you got your edge rusher of the future who's almost guaranteed not to be Myles Garrett, and I only say that because who is. But you're in a great situation either way. So that would make a lot of sense to me for the flexibility if you are Cleveland.
All right, so the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Yep.
They did some maneuvering. They bounced around. They weaseled their way up to 9. The last time they picked in the top 10, we all know what that pick was, right? They moved up to get Patrick Mahomes. There's a lot of talk that, I was thinking, damn, if they get Jeremiah Love, I'm gonna cry. If the Broncos end up with Jeremiah Love, somehow I'm gonna cry. The Chargers, I wouldn't put it past the Chargers being sneaky and trying to slide up there, even though they have, Omarion Hampton from last year. But man, I hope somebody takes him early, and there's just no way that he's sitting there at like 10 or something, and some of these teams try to get him. But if you're the GM for the Chiefs, right, you got Chris Jones going, kind of getting up there, right? So you need that true defensive pass rush. If Arvell Reese sitting there at 3 to the Cardinals, if David Bailey sitting there at 3 for the Cardinals, and you're the Chiefs, would you try to move up to get one of those guys to secure your pass rush, tighten up that defense, try to get back to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, so if I'm the Chiefs, my window is pretty much at this moment
closing.
The construction. Yeah, exactly. It's only as wide as Mahomes allows it to stay, right? So and even Andy Reid for that matter, who knows how long he wants to continue coaching, And once either of those two are gone, I think it's pretty safe to say, unless something drastic changes in the meanwhile, which can happen, the window's closed. So maximize the window right now. And in saying that, absolutely, if you view, and there might be a team, there probably is, I would say multiple teams who view David Bailey as the best player in this entire class, disregarding Mendoza in totality, for whatever reason, maybe they don't need a quarterback, or maybe they just think that David Bailey as a edge rusher is just a better player than Mendoza is as a quarterback. Whatever the case may be, I won't be
I have
surprised.
him. I have him as the best edge rusher just because you know what he's going to get, right?
Yeah,
That whole step can't stop the run thing. I heard that about Max Crosby. He's the best in the league now. So,
yeah,
not saying he's Max Crosby, but if he has that work ethic, I don't think being able to stop the run will be a problem. You don't have
yeah.
you don't have school to focus on. It's your job. So, I had David Bailey as my number one just because Arvell Reese is, you don't know if he's going to play outside linebacker, right? He's going to play that Roman linebacker. He's going to be on the line. You just don't know where. And I know his upside is higher, but for a team that needs the quarterback to go down and go down hard, like Al Davis would say, I believe it's David Bailey.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, no, it would make total sense to me for the for the Chiefs to go up and it might be Arvell Reese who falls to 3-2. We're just kind of assuming that Reese goes 2, but that's not based on anything that I know other than I know the Jets like him a lot, but maybe the Jets like Bailey even more. We don't know, So either way, I have to assume that these guys are pretty much 1 and 2 on most teams' boards, especially if you need edge rush help in any degree. I have to assume that these guys, Reese and Bailey, are top 3 on like everybody's board, pretty much. If they even make it to the board, which they will if they need edge rush help in any magnitude. But so that makes total sense to me for the Chiefs. You got Reese and Mendoza is not going to be on your board literally at all. If you're the Chiefs, just Mahomes, it wouldn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, like I said, no top 30 visits. I do believe I couldn't find any top 30 visits for any other team but the Raiders. So
yeah,
that says something.
so Mendoza is not on your board if you're the Chiefs, and he wouldn't be anyway, right? Because like I said,
nah.
But so you got to imagine the Chiefs board 1 and 2 any order is Reese and Bailey. So if one of those guys are there, especially if it's your number 1 guy at 3, yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. Go get the player you have number 1 in the draft, maximize the Mahomes era, and shit. It's actually kind of a scary thought, to be honest with you.
Right? Do the Chiefs still have 2? Do they have 2 first-round picks in this draft?
Yeah, yes, because they got one for McDuffie.
Yeah, so they got the McDuffie pick. Where is that? Yeah, so I mean, they could easily. Where's the other pick? I think it's in the 30s.
Wait.
29. So they got 9 and 29. And if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, man, I'm taking that all day, right? If I'm Mike LaFleur and I'm playing coaches today, you're playing GM for anybody that don't know. So, if I'm Mike LaFleur, I'm beating on the table to you saying, let's try to get somebody to like Kansas City that really wants to move up and get one of these edge rushers that needs an edge rusher because, their windows are closing. They need somebody that can get to the quarterback. Yes, they probably need help on the O-line, but I mean, you could probably get, some help in here in the second and third, I'm sure, like Basantes and, guys like that. So I think that makes all the sense in the world. And then if you're the Cardinals, like I said, you got the 9th overall pick. You could take Maui Noah there. If that's your guy, then that's your guy. If I'm the Arizona Cardinals and I'm at 9 and Monroe Freeling's there, that's my guy. That's who I would take if I was the Cardinals, lock in your guy, sure up that offensive line. I think his upside is through the roof. And then you got 29. So, if you do want to move up and take, get a Ty Simpson or a Carson Beck, if he's still on the board or whoever your guy is, maybe Mike LaFleur wants to go crazy and be like, I can't see a scenario where I don't have Taylor Green on my team. He's listen to me. He's a quarterback guru, just like Sean McVay. Look at what they've done. He's the offensive coordinator. He's the one that's been working with all those quarterbacks with McVay in the building. Everybody they brought in through Darnold, through, all these guys, they've turned out to be those guys somewhere else. And if you're looking at Taylor Green, man, you're looking at all these, all these athletic abilities. Like I said yesterday on here, sometimes that kid has some passes where you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe he made that throw and it worked. And then other times, like I said, about Ty Simpson, you're like, wow, yelling and screaming, why the hell would you throw that football? Did you not see the safety, right? Or did you not see the linebacker just sitting there spying? Like, that's his job. You should know. He's got those plays. But I've seen him in practice, right? I've seen him in games live, and just the way he moves. And people's like, oh, he doesn't have the pocket awareness, right? He doesn't have the mindset. But I'm telling you, if you're in the building, with the guy, two guys, a guy like Jacoby Brissett, who's been there, done that, right? That's a perfect guy to bring a Taylor Green behind and let Jacoby Brissett, be your guy for another year. Pay him that money. You got a guy on a cheap contract that's athletic as hell that can run your system. You just got to get the mental part, and the mental part is all teachable. Mechanics is teachable, but I've seen from what I was seeing in practices that I went to in Arkansas, that from there to what I seen on John Gruden, his base looked wider, his footwork looked a lot faster, his release mechanical looked better. And you've seen, bro, go back and watch the Gruden things. Like, everybody has thrown the balls in the nets, put it up there. Taylor Green's ball is just as good as anybody's. He could throw that one ball, the two ball, the three ball. The only thing this kid lacks is just the mental focus of reading the defenses and knowing, hey, man, and like I said, when these kids get into the NFL, they're not in college, right? They don't have to worry about tests. They don't have to worry about their GPA. They don't have to worry about, all the shit that you have to worry about in college. Your job is to get up in the morning, be the first one in the building and the last one to leave. And if he can do that, bro, this kid has all the talent in the world. I mean, they took a Jalen Milroe early in the second. You took Anthony Richardson, third overall, whatever it was, fourth overall. Like, I just don't see how you could pass up on a kid like Taylor Green with that much talent. And if he falls to the third, or if he doesn't go in the second, or somebody goes crazy in the first, I'm gonna lose my mind, because you could use this kid even as a Taysom Hill, on short yardage, on third down, 6'6", 230. I mean, like, I don't know. I see him being the sleeper of this draft, and there's a lot of people want him to be a wide receiver, but shit, draft him as a quarterback. If he doesn't work, make him a wide receiver.
He's a tough one. I know that he doesn't buy any of that. Like, I'm not being a quarterback, but like you said, if you try it and you give him a fair shake and it doesn't work out, maybe he's like, all right, you gave me a fair shake, I'll give you a fair shake then and try a receiver. You never know. But yeah, he's a tough one. And all the guys that you said, I think Milroe went in round 3. I'm not sure. He's a day 2 pick either way. It doesn't matter. We can't really lump Milroe in with these guys, only because we haven't seen Milroe play. He might come out and he might be the best quarterback we've ever seen play in the NFL. We haven't seen it. But I think guys like Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, they only paved the way for guys like that to just keep falling. And it might be unfair to Taylor Greens of the world, but I think that's kind of where we're at with him.
And also his clock was constantly sped up. That offensive line was built for run the ball. That's why Mike Washington is projected, went from 4th round to 3rd round. Now he's day 2, maybe late day 2 projection. So that was an offensive line that was built to run the ball, and they tried to get him to stand in the pocket and be a pocket passer, and instead of run a lot. And I just feel like if you get him in a with a damn good team late in those rounds, like because those good teams are late, back there in the late rounds, except for the Dolphins who traded into it. If you're a Dolphins fan, I apologize for that, but except for them, most of those teams in the late rounds are good. So you could get a kid like that and let him sit for a year. 25, 26. I mean, come on. Sam Darnold didn't kick in till, what is he now? 27, 20, 28 or something. So, I think one of these teams will take a swing on this guy. It might not be first round, but I'd be surprised if somebody lets him walk out of the second.
I wanted to say something in regards to the chat. Someone said, how important is it to get a wide receiver in rounds 2 and rounds 3?
Yeah, shout out to all the chat. Shout out for everybody being here. I appreciate y'all.
For the Raiders, I think it is moderately important for sure. I actually think it's probably the most important thing. But when I say that, I want it to be clear that I don't mean, if it doesn't make sense, do it. And when I say if it doesn't make sense, I mean Just, if a lot of guys go before you think and you find yourself with no real options and the guys left don't really elevate the wide receiver room to you, then it doesn't make sense, but it's very important to try to make it make sense. If you feel like that's going to be the case and wide receivers start coming off the board, trade up. And like the wide receiver room is disgusting for the Raiders. But as far as like building your board and all that stuff, I don't think any team in the NFL, I think it's a myth really that, this team needs a wide receiver. So their board is just the first guys on their board are just all wide receivers. And then you go to the next position group. I don't think any team operates like that. And for good reason. So doesn't make sense. Try to make it make sense though.
Right. Let me ask you another. So do you think it's a big enough need where they try to move back in the second round? You're the GM, right? Mr. Spytek, do you think we need a wide receiver enough that we take one at 36? Is there one like a Denzel Boston, maybe a Omar Cooper if he has a little bit of a slide, which I just don't see possible. Maybe you try to squeeze back into, at 30 with the Dolphins to grab a Denzel Boston if he's there. I just feel like Denzel Boston is that position guy, that the guy that's going to move the chains. He can play the slot, he can play the edge, right? He's a big physical body. He's going to win, most of those 50-50 balls. You already have the speed with Trey Tucker, 4.3 speed. You have Cedric Jackson, who has 4.29. Some people say 4.3, whatever it is, but 4.3 speed. You have Dante Thornton's a big body with 4.3 speed. You have plenty of speed on this roster. And then you have Besh, Bowers, and Denzel Boston. I think if that's your receiver, that gives your quarterback solid targets.
Yeah. So like I said, I think it's key that you make it make sense. Like that's the big thing. You have to make it make sense. And you can only draft for yourself. There's 32 teams. You're only drafting for one. So 31 of the 32 teams drafting is out of your control. But you can make it in your control in the degree that when guys start to come off the board, you trade up, right? So with that being said, to me, there's 6 guys who I put on a tier above all the other wide receivers. There's actually 7. I just don't think the 7th is going to go that high. But it's you got Jordan Tyson, you got Micaiah Lemon, you got Denzel Boston, you got Carnell Tate, you got Omar, and KC. And I don't have them in that order, and I'm not saying they're all in the same tier either, but I think there's a big drop off after those 6. The other guy is Malachi Fields, who actually I think is amazing. I really do.
I love Malachi Fields. I was so hard for not putting him in my top 10, like right on the edge, and like he's been in and out, and I've moved him and put him, taking him out, but I think he's right there. I think there's if I go my top 10, I think I got like 4 guys on that tier that I just couldn't figure out where to put them.
No, I agree. But of the 6 that I said, if I'm the GM, and I think this is what Spytek needs to do, because I do think wide receiver is like
your Spytek. What do you mean?
Yeah, true. I'm Spytek. You're right. So
what do you need to do, sir?
I'm watching those guys, and when 5 of those 6, any 5, it doesn't matter which of the 5, go off the board, and there's only one of those 6 names that I said on the board, I am trading up immediately to get whoever the 6th is. It doesn't matter. And
okay.
And I think that's what you got to do. And if it so happens that you stay at pick 35 is on the clock, I'm at pick 36, and there's 2 guys left still, and I'm guaranteed one of them, and I don't got to give up any assets to trade up. Hell yeah, that's amazing, But you can't just say, I hope this happens, and if it doesn't happen, there's nothing I can do about it, which is true to some degree, but you can make it happen, So
100%.
So I think that's what you got to do. I think wide receiver. So I'm actually in the camp, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I think there's only 2 needs on this roster. There's a lot of things you can upgrade. There's a lot of positions you can upgrade, but needs, like straight up, you need to address this. And I'm not counting quarterback because we all know that's addressed in 1.1. Wide receiver. And the other one is just a coverage safety who's deeper, but that's an interesting thing, the coverage safety, because you really just need this player to play in a role. You don't necessarily need them to be just this, they evolve your defense, like the wide receiver, you need a guy who's going to transform the wide receiver room. But that's not necessarily true about the coverage safety. You just need a guy who can go out there and he can play deep safety. He doesn't need to transform the safety room or anything, So, and I think Bud Clark is a guy from TCU that can do that, and you can get him round 3, round 4. But the wide receiver, you got to make happen, man. You have to make it happen.
So, do you feel like they have to go second round wide receiver? Like that's one of the biggest needs over defensive tackle or corner or safety, who there's only 3 on the board with Jeremy Chin at strong safety. Palomau's not really a free safety. And then you got Tristan McCollum. Like, to me, because I'm the coach, right? And I got pushed back. I think, and definitely if I'm Rob Leonard, I'm going to be both coaches at once and gang up on you. I think we need some help in that secondary, because the best way to help your quarterback is to have a defense, right, that can get them out of those turnovers, those mistakes, those 3 and outs, or turnovers. Hopefully there's not a lot of those. I think they need safety bad. I really feel like safety is a huge need. I think they can get away with corner with Eric Stokes and Darian Porter taking that next step. You still have DeCamarion Richardson, which is my guy. I think hopefully he just hangs in there and makes that roster. But if McNeil Warren is there, and that's your guy in the first, would you move up for a McNeil Warren? Say sitting there at 30, and the Dolphins, Dolphins are at 30. They're in a rebuild. They need a couple picks.
No.
Or is there a safety that you think you can get in the 3rd or 4th rounds to help us out?
Well, there is absolutely there's safeties I think you can get in the 3rd, 4th round to help out. But all right, you give your pushback as the coach of why, hey, maybe we need secondary help. All right, I would hit you with this. Which guy who's projected to be available? I mean, any guy in the draft outside of Caleb Downs who's not going to be there. If Caleb Downs is there, around the back end of round 1, all right, I hear you. That trade makes sense. But anybody else in the entire class, and maybe you could argue Gerard McCoy, who's not going to be there either, but maybe you can argue him. Who is going to transform the secondary? And you don't need anybody to transform the secondary is the thing. But one of those 6 receivers that I named, and that's specifically why I named those 6 receivers, is because those 6 receivers are going to transform the receiver room. They're going to instantly walk in, be the day 1 starter, be the day 1 wide receiver 1, not just the day 1 starter. And they're going to be that guy for years to come, presumably, and you can't say that about anybody, the safety that you could draft at safety. And even the Oregon kid who's really freaking good. And, if he's there at pick 36, you might have to consider him. But I don't even think
I think he goes in the top 15. I hear you. I really don't see Thieneman falling out of the top 15. But that's why I'm saying, like, looking at the safety class, I think you have guys like, VJ Payne, and then you have Kamari Ramsey, then you have, why am I missing everybody all of a sudden? But yeah, guys like that, McNeil Warren, that I think will go in the first. They brought in AJ Halsey, I believe. There's a lot of talk that they really like, that thumper. But I feel like he's more of that strong safety, and we already have that in Jeremy Chin, right? So I feel like we need one of those guys that are fast, that can get sideline to sidelines. If we're running a cover 2, he could cover his halves, right? If you're playing quarters, he can cover his quarter. I have questions about Palomau being that guy with, his speed and his range. I don't see, being that rangy free safety. So I feel like that's a big position. And
I hear you,
and with the safeties you're looking at, I feel like in the second round, there's going to be a run on, a lot of those guys start coming off the board. So would you possibly look at trading back for 36?
No. The only thing that makes sense to me is the receiver. It really is the only thing that makes sense to me. And I'm not saying this what the Raiders are going to do, but me being spy tech is the only thing that I would do. It's the only thing that I would even consider is the plan that I said with the receiver. And I'm also going to throw this at you too. Don't forget that a lot of guys are waiting to after the draft to sign, like veteran free agents out there.
Yeah,
I'm going to say a guy like Kyle Duggar, who I don't think is great at all, and he's old at that too. But if you smack a Band-Aid like Kyle Duggar out there to play that free safety role until next year's draft, where you target somebody younger for the future then. How much worse is that than drafting, let's say, a Bud Clark, sorry, from TCU, who's really good coverage safety, but how much worse is that for the year 2026 specifically and nothing else after that? And I don't think it's that much worse. Now, conversely, try doing that with a wide receiver, one of the 6 that I named, and saying, we're not going to do that. We're going to do X instead. You might be able to get away with that with Juwan Jennings, but it's going to cost you a pretty penny. But other than that, it is such a downgrade, and there is no Band-Aid you could smack on that wide receiver room if you don't do that. And that would be my argument for why, listen, it's like I told you, I think safety is the second need on this roster. And that with wide receiver, I do believe it's a need, absolutely. It's the only thing I consider a need with wide receiver. But there's a lot of fixes. There's a lot of fixes to it, and you can smack a Band-Aid on it. And cornerback, I know you brought up cornerback too. To your point, even if you like Porter as the starter, even if obviously Stokes is going to be the other starter, there's nothing behind them. So you can argue cornerback depth too, even if you do like Porter. But again, it's not going to have the same impact. It's not going to transform the cornerback room like wide receiver room. I mean, dude, we're looking at is Trey Tucker still the wide receiver one?
I don't think he was ever a wide receiver one, and I don't think he will ever be a wide receiver one.
That's exactly the latter half of that statement. Is
he's a wide receiver 3 at best, and that's all he's ever going to be, in my opinion. I just don't think he's that 2 guy, and I don't think he'll ever, could ever be that 1 guy. I just don't see it. His separation ain't there. He doesn't win the contested catches. He doesn't have big hands or long arms. Like, he has speed. That's it.
That is exactly my point, is how can you look at that and say, we need a coverage safety because we don't have a coverage safety. Dude, then go sign one. You're not going to sign. You're not just going to get a guy who fixes the wide receiver room. I mean, you can argue even getting one of those guys isn't going to fix the wide receiver room because it needs.
What money are we going to sign him with, though? GM, we're running out of that.
If you're going, how much money do you think a guy like Kyle Duggar is going to get realistically?
Yeah, probably. I mean, but who knows? 2, maybe close 3.
Close to the vet minimum, I would say, especially at this point. And again, if you
just guarantee that money, guarantee it, you don't have to worry about it being on the,
Yeah, but if you switch it around, then you're saying, well, we're going to get Juwan Jennings and we're going to put a Band-Aid on the wide receiver room. I don't even think that's a good enough Band-Aid anyway, but then how much is that going to cost? You're looking at 11, 12 million minimum, and that's a team-friendly deal for Juwan Jennings, but that might happen now at this stage of free agency. But anyway, point being, no matter what, it's drafting the wide receiver and signing the veteran safety that just makes the roster better, makes more sense, and it's more financially friendly. And I can't get past that, In Kilgore, somebody said Kilgore in the comments. I love Jalen Kilgore for this team. I actually think he is maybe the best fit of any of them, any safety in the entire draft besides Caleb Downs. Because the thing with Kilgore is he's not only a great coverage safety, but he actually has so South Carolina, and they're one of the only college football teams that do this. They run, I forget what they call it, but it's essentially the Tyrann Mathieu position where you play free safety and you play slot, which in the NFL we see it with strong safeties who play slot, like Eamon Worry, for example. But this is your free safety is playing slot, and Kilgore does that. South Carolina is like the only team in the country that runs that, which is weird because in college, if you have natural talent, you can just dominate regardless, because it's college. But
I got Kilgore in the 70s, so. Third round, early third, with that early third round pick.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I like his ball stinks. Ball skills I think is off the charts. He's decent run support. I think his instincts, could get better. But yeah, I mean, I like him 4.4. I think he had 9 and 3/8 arms, or 22 and 7/8 arms, and 9 and 3/8 hands. So. I think shit. And what I really like was a 10-yard split, 1.56. It's filthy, bro. Filthy. So he's got those hips. He can sink his hips. He can move. I can see,
he's also a guy that Kilgore is a guy that it won't surprise me if one team has him like really high on their board and he goes a lot higher than anyone expects. It only takes one team to fall in love with you, and then that's all it takes, man. So it won't surprise me if a team's like that with Kilgore and he goes in the second round, or It would surprise me in the first, but second round wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, second. I think you could probably squeeze him early in the third. Some teams might have him a little high and jump up on him. How disappointed would you be if we don't draft a running back or wide receiver? Go ahead, GM. It would be on you if we didn't. I'm just saying.
All right, I'm the GM and that happens, I'm no longer the GM after the draft. Like, it's done. I'm canned.
So we're getting a wide receiver and a running back in this draft.
At least one of them. You're getting at least one wide receiver or at least one running back. Like, to say you're not getting either at any point.
As coach, I say we get one of each. I feel we need another wide receiver, and we're going to go through those here in a second. But I definitely feel running back is definitely a need on the board.
I agree.
But wide receiver, man, we all know Jordan Tyson is the most filthiest dude in this draft. if he can stay healthy,
he's
the way
he's freaky.
The way he bends and moves there's no wonder he has knee problems and all the injuries he has and hamstrings, and like I don't even know how he should be a contortionist. I don't even know how you move like that. But playing GM. No, I'm just saying there's no way you could trade out of number one. But if somebody was to offer enough where you did trade out of that first overall pick, would Jordan Tyson be your pick if he was there? Say you moved back to 7 or 6 or one of them crazy teams.
So if that did happen, and let's say I took the day off, or I took the first hour off, I come back and my assistant trades the pick. They trade down to 7. Now I'm in this reality. Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense for sure. And especially, so the thing with the Raiders too is, do I think Kirk Cousins is going to come in and save this football team? Absolutely not. I do not. So you're probably going to get a high pick next year if Mendoza's never in the equation, right?
If he does better than Geno, I'll be all right. But I don't see him playing this year. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh no, me neither. Honestly, and I said this. I was one of the only people when this happened. When Spytek said his comment, like, I like to sit rookie quarterbacks and let them learn. To me, that's a blanket statement. That does not necessarily apply to Mendoza. Maybe it does, but it doesn't necessarily apply to him. It's just a general statement. I think Mendoza has all, like I said at the beginning, I think he's the most pro-ready quarterback since Andrew Luck coming out of the draft. I think there's no way he doesn't win the job in preseason or camp or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I feel like, I just, and people are going to hate this because they know how I am about Aiden O'Connell. But the fact that the GM, you yourself, went out of your way twice to bring up Aiden O'Connell in the conversation where he was never even mentioned just shows me a little something, right? A lot of people are saying, oh, he doesn't fit this system like they did the last 3 years, right? He's never going to make the team. He doesn't fit. But Aiden O'Connell keeps hanging around like a cockroach. You can't kill him, bro. You can't kill him. He just keeps coming back. So, and going into his 4th year, it's a contract year. Seems like Spytek has a little something in his heart, right? He likes the Big Ten guys. He's a Purdue guy. They beat out Michigan when they were getting ready, to win a national championship, right? Didn't they give them hell in that game or win that game? Michigan State, he put up 5 tutties, I do believe, in that game, 500 yards. So I think Spytek has a little something in his heart for Aiden O'Connell. And, being a contract year, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if they go with, Aiden just for a couple games and have Kurt just sitting on the bench, feeding Mendoza information like, damn, he shouldn't have made that throw, or look at this safety coming in. This is how you read this defense, right? Just showing them, having that dude in your ear instead of having Aiden O'Connell on the sideline. If you really want a full mentor your guy, and if he's not, ready day one and they think they still need help, what better way to mentor than to have, have it on screen, sitting there being like, okay, look, the safety dropping down, explaining. I think that would be a perfect scenario. And, you give a guy that's on his last, chance maybe for somebody to sign him before he might be in the UFL, if it or a backup.
Yeah. No,
And you're not the GM at this point. This is just me and you. So, not being the GM.
No, I hear you. That makes sense too. I think so. For me, I'm going to say this. I think that the only reason why Kirk Cousins is signed at all in any magnitude is, I think the mentoring thing is a bonus. I don't even think like, it was like, yeah, we're bringing this guy in because he's a mentor. I think that's just a bonus. I think that the thing is you bring Kirk in so that way you're not tied to Mendoza or Aiden O'Connell automatically being QB1. Like you're having an actual battle. And if you feel Mendoza's not ready, you feel Aiden O'Connell isn't your guy, whatever, then, you have another option, because Kirk would have been signed before. If that doesn't happen and you go through preseason, Kirk is already on another roster guaranteed. So I think you do that so your hands aren't tied. So that makes sense to me. But in saying that, yeah, it makes sense. It would make sense too if the Aiden O'Connell thing shakes up like that too.
I mean, the Spytex went out of his way on 4 different interviews to bring up his name. Right? They never mentioned him. They never said anything, and he brings him up. Don't forget we got Aiden O'Connell in the building who's played some damn good football. This is his words, right? And then Rich Eisen was like, "Oh yeah, remember that game against Michigan?" He's like, "Yeah, I remember that game." But he's also played some good football in the NFL. So he said, "This is going to be a quarterback competition, and may the best man play." Right? And I just don't feel like Kirk Cousins at 38 years old is better than Aiden O'Connell. Maybe his mind, maybe reading defenses, but is your arm really still there? Is your movement really still there? Like, standing in the pocket, like we can see, we've seen this kid have 340 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Chiefs defense that made it to the Super Bowl that year. So like Spytek said, man, that may the best man win. So I'm just happy that for once there's a quarterback competition and they're actually going to go out and let guys compete. He said, Kurt is a veteran. He's earned that chance to take the first snaps. But Kurt said it himself. Like, if I'm not the best guy, I don't want to be out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, man, the last time we saw Kirk on the field, his body is healed since then, or so we assume. We don't know what that means, especially when you're older like Kirk. We don't know what his body healing actually means. But his arm did not look good the last time he was out on the field. And I understand he was hurt. But I'm just saying, like, how often when older guys hurt their arm like that, does it just all, they're back to their youthfulness when it's all healed? It's pretty much 0% of the time. So doesn't mean that it won't look all right though. But, that's another factor is we don't know because we haven't seen Kirk back on the field since.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, he came and played towards the end of the season, but, before he got hurt, man, he was Geno Smith, 18 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Why do you bring in that guy, right? And I'm going to change the subject before I start yelling and screaming and cussing and just going ballistic. But it was $1.3 million. It's not a big deal, right? Bring him in, let him be that mentor, but be that mentor on a damn bench and let somebody else play because we don't have time to have a guy come in and throw 18 damn interceptions and 18 touchdowns and 16 interceptions again. We cannot do that in Las Vegas. You cannot have fans in the building booing Kirk Cousins and doing what they did to Geno Smith. And, because he's not going to be out there flipping people off and stuff. But, you can't treat a Christian guy like Kirk Cousins like we did Geno Smith. So don't put him out there. Don't irritate the nation. Please let my blood pressure be somewhere, in the 160s, because right now it's probably 180. So, as an old man, dude, please, as a GM, do me a favor and do not let Kirk Cousins be out there. Bring him in, sit him on the bench, let him be that mentor. Look, this is how it works. This is how you read film, right? The game's over. What did Aiden O'Connell do wrong, right? Or what did Mendoza do wrong if he's the starter, But the fact that, the GM Spytek said, I think it's the perfect fit for Aiden O'Connell to have a guy like Kirk Cousins in the building and whatever quarterback, if we bring in a quarterback. So, it just sounds like me. Draft a backup quarterback, trade LC for a 3rd rounder, yes or no? If you get a 3rd rounder for Aiden O'Connell, take it all day. I mean, if somebody's willing to give you a 3rd, bro, I'm 100% in. Shout out for the $2 holla. I appreciate you. I know there's a lot more comments. Raider Knight says, why are there so many Mendoza haters seeing he is a number 1 pick? Because he has too many flaws. I just don't feel like he has too many flaws. I think they're hating. Look, I can tell you right now why everybody's hating. And this is my take. I feel like you're looking at Mendoza and you're looking at Cam Ward, right? Everybody shows the Cam Ward highlights. Oh, I could run over here. I could run over here. I could twist. I could turn. I could jump. I could duck and dodge. And then I could throw, the ball 45 yards and it'd be a touchdown because guys have ran around so much and your eyes are downfield. That's great. But then you look at his interceptions to touchdown completion ratio. You look at it through college. You look at it, in the NFLs. You look at Caleb Williams and you're like, oh, he's so flashy, right? He ducked out of that play, and he turned and twisted and he scrambled for 25 minutes in the backfield, 25 yards deep and then threw a touchdown, right? I think people love that flash and they love that aspect of it. And I just feel like that you're looking at Mendoza, you're watching the film and you're like, man, this film is boring. It's boring. Yeah, because it's blue 52, silver, boom, blue 52, silver, boom, blue, every play, bro. It's step back, no hitch, right? You're already in the gun, so there's no hitch. You're not stepping back. You're getting the ball and you're throwing it to your first or second read. And if they're not open, you're running. Sometimes most of the time he went to his third. So I just think it's the flash. I think he's a robot. People are gonna hate because he doesn't do anything flashy, right? He didn't throw for 5 touchdowns in a game. He didn't throw for 500 yards in a game. But then I go back and I look at the game that I keep thinking of why people don't give this kid credit. As yes, he's not as flashy as Caleb Williams, but his QBR is better. His completion percentage is way better. When they faced each other, USC and Cal, a lot of people forget about that game, right? What did it end, like 49-50 or something? They went back and forth. Their stats were almost the same. Caleb had 70 yards or somewhere in there. Don't come in my comments and correct me, but had like 70 yards. Yeah, you know who you are. Had 70 yards, somewhere in there, better than Mendoza. But they both had 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Mendoza had 1 interception. But his completion percentage, and yeah, you can check this, was 64.1 to like 58.7 for Caleb. So he's got a better percentage. They went neck and neck, and that shows me that he could step up with those guys and play with the big dogs that at the time he was projected to be a 3rd round pick. I mean, you might go in the 3rd round, and Caleb was already at that time. They were ranked 24th in the country, right? Cal wasn't even ranked, and he comes in and carries that team and bring had them right out the jump. And I know they had Jaden Ott, which I do believe was on that team and had 3 touchdowns in the first half, ran for 134 yards. That helps. But just like Indiana, you have a running game. Mendoza can be that guy. I feel like we have a running game, right? Do we not have a running game with Ashton Genty, almost 1,000 yards behind whatever that mess was of offensive line and whatever system you want to call it? So I feel like we're there with this team, man. I don't know. I feel like it's so much closer, but Cousins starting just does not make sense to me. It just does not make sense, right? I know he wants to play football. I know he wants to go out with a bang, and I know he wants that opportunity, and he'll get it in camp. And I feel like, once Spytek said, well, he's a veteran, he deserves, those first overall stamps. More than likely, he's going to start. But if he comes out like Jimmy Garoppolo, if he comes out like Jimmy G, right? How do you keep him in there? Do you throw Mendoza to the fire, right? A lot of people want Mendoza to start right away. Do you really want him to go out there and take the lumps of an offensive line that's trying to figure it out, right? They're trying to figure out the offense. They're trying to gel together. They've never played with Tyler Linderbaum. Nobody's ever taken snaps from him until, the next couple of days, they'll be taking some reps. So this offense isn't going to come out and hit the ground running. The offensive line isn't going to come out, just blowing teams out of the water. I don't feel it's going to take some time, and somebody needs to be back there taking those lumps. And I don't think it's, a 38-year-old Kirk Cousins, and I don't feel like it's the rookie. So that leaves one other person. Whoever you draft or Aiden O'Connell, take those lumps, right? Just if the team, shows, hey, look, this offensive line is fire. Now, our receivers are getting open. Our defense is tight. Maybe it is time for for this kid, Mendoza, to come in and play, or maybe he is ready day one. But I just feel like with everything going on with Tom Brady, how he, you got to sit for a year no matter where you're drafted. He don't care about that. Spytek says the same thing. Clint Kubiak's kind of on the same page. Somebody's going to start, and I just don't know if Kirk Cousins is the best. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so um I'll bleed into all of that, but start from the beginning here with like why does Mendoza have so many haters and all this stuff? I actually don't really see any people saying that he has flaws. I just see mostly that Mendoza is not as good as X player, or he's not as good as all these other players. And if he was in a draft with all the prospects of the last 5 years at quarterback, he'd be like the seventh, eighth, ninth, whatever bullshit
Yeah,
people
he
say.
doesn't have those elite trades.
Yeah, that exactly. And I don't think people really think he has flaws at all. It's just they don't. People love to fall in love with theoreticals because a guy like, let's say, Trevor Lawrence, and I'm going to say Trevor Lawrence because to this day he is exactly what he was when he entered the league. He has all the talent in the world, but at the end of the day he's kind of a guy that if he's your quarterback, you're kind of like, I like him. Do I like him that much? Some days absolutely, other days no, not at all. And people fall in love with
Yep.
this kind of player.
The playoffs. He was good in the playoffs, and then you're like, man, come on.
Like, and you see it with the Caleb Williams, and this is when it comes with the Mendoza hate is he's not Caleb Williams, he's not Trevor Lawrence, he's not Joe Burrow, he's not all these guys, right? He doesn't have that arm talent. He's not Anthony Richardson, he's not Jaden Daniels, he's not CJ Stroud. He's not Bryce Young. He's not any of these guys. Dude, good. That it is so good he's not any of those guys. Because I don't know if you've seen how those guys transitioned into the NFL. And I know Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud still get a lot of love, but as of recent, their play has not looked that good. So all those guys except Joe Burrow and Caleb Williams, the last half of the last season looked very good. But other than that, it is very good he's not those guys because what those guys lacked is all up here. And they had all of Cam Ward too, another guy. And Cam Ward rookie, so it's hard to just say that he's not a smart quarterback. That's not what I'm trying to say. But Cam Ward never had the mental intangibles that Mendoza had. Never. That's never been a thing. If it was, he would have. I mean, people only started talking about Cam Ward first overall pick like the month before the draft last year. People forget that.
Yep.
But anyway,
it was Shador. It was all about Shador.
Exactly. And all right, so for this next part, and I'm going to start bleeding into other things now. For this next part, understand I'm not comparing players physically or their talents or their games. I'm comparing them all mentally. I'm going to group two types of quarterbacks. Group one, you have almost every single quarterback I just named outside of Joe Burrow. I'm going to put him in the other group. So all those guys minus Joe Burrow. We'll throw in Justin Herbert. We'll throw in Bo Nix. There's a lot of guys we could throw in. We could throw in almost every single high drafted quarterback. Other than I'm not going to throw in Drake May either. Although you could argue it. I'm just going to argue that he's not in that. And everybody else you can put in this one tier. And what this one tier is, you can put Anthony Richardson in this tier, Justin Fields in this tier. This is guys who are all theoretics. Theoretically, they can be the best quarterback we've ever seen play. Are they that? They're not even close. But theoretically, they have all the tools where they could be that. They just need to be coached. Okay, well, how do you coach them? I don't know. We just gotta hope and wish on the lucky stars that it all just
throw them out there, see what happens.
And the other tier of players, you
like
have
teaching a baby to swim. You just throw them in the pool.
Exactly.
Or a dog, right?
And it never works out. There's been one single quarterback who it's worked out with in the last probably 20 years. One single one, Josh Allen, the only quarterback who, Patrick Mahomes too. I'll throw Patrick Mahomes in there too. But it's the only guys that they came into the NFL with just raw. They didn't really have the mental. And Josh Allen is such a unicorn. People don't talk about this. That what was his fourth year when he had the turnaround? He was very close to just being done with the Bills, just being done with him, right? And then he turned it all around magically overnight. You never ever that didn't happen with Mahomes. Mahomes sat and then he came in. And
I see the same with Taylor Green, man. I'm telling you.
And I hesitate to put Mahomes even in the category of ready because wasn't ready, rather, because we don't know. We don't know what happened while he was sitting. Maybe he always had the mental, good. He didn't look like he had it in college. So I'm going to say Mahomes is kind of that too. Then you have the other tier of that, right? You got Tom Brady. You got Jalen Hurts. You got Joe Burrow. Again, I'm not comparing any of their talents. I'm comparing just their mental, how they approach, because they all approach the game the same way. Okay, what do these guys have in common? They win. Joe Burrow, maybe not, but Joe Burrow went to a Super Bowl with the Bengals. Don't forget that. Tom Brady won Super Bowls. Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl. Did he win 2 Super Bowls at this point? Did Jalen Hurts win 2 Super Bowls at this point? I honestly can't. I think so, right? Rebel?
Yeah, sorry.
How many Super Bowls did Jalen Hurts won? 2 at this point?
2, yeah.
Yeah. So Jalen Hurts, 2 Super Bowls, been to another Super Bowl that he lost. Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls, of course. And Joe Burrow been to a Super Bowl. All these guys, what do they all have in common? They came into the NFL with the mental. That's their thing. They came into the NFL like that. Mendoza is of that cloth. Again, I'm not saying he's Joe Burrow talent. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady talent. I'm not saying he's Jalen Hurts talent, which people might be happy about because I know Jalen Hurts is very. A lot of people aren't high on Jalen Hurts because of the physical stuff, but he is mentally extremely intelligent, and it leads them to wins. And everybody's like, well, when you have Saquon Barkley, when you have A.J. Brown, it's not hard. Okay, well, when I have those guys, I want my quarterback to do exactly what Jalen Hurts does. Give it to your playmakers. Don't try to be a hero. Do the smart thing. I want my quarterback to do that. And it's like when I have Brock Bowers, I'm looking at a team with Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty. Do I want my quarterback to be the hero? Do I want him to give the ball to Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers? I want him to give the ball to the playmakers. I want him to be smart. I don't want him to be a hero. I don't want my quarterback to go out there and try to be Superman like Caleb Williams, Cam Ward, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, all these other
flashy,
guys.
It looks nice, but the sometimes it costs you games, man.
Exactly. And I'm not saying any of these quarterbacks I just named are bad quarterbacks. In fact, they're all really good quarterbacks. But there's a difference when we're talking about the Joe Burrows of the world who always make the right plays, the Jalen Hurts of the world who always make the right plays, the Tom Brady's of the world who always make the right plays. I want that at the end of the day. I don't care if it looks like he's the most talented quarterback in the world or not. I care if it looks like he's making the most winning plays out of all the quarterbacks. And Mendoza does that. He's always done that. And that is why Mendoza does have a lot of hate, because people don't see it that way. And the fact people don't see it that way is why Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, and all these guys get drafted so high in the first place. Because it's
they miss on talent so much in the NFL. Like they take swings, and they I mean, you can look at any draft. I mean, just look at how McCarthy's doing right now. You know what I mean? Like top 7 pick, right? Like they moved up to get him. I mean, there's so many. I think they moved up to get him.
Yeah, they did. They moved to 10.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just so many bad drafting teams are, and I don't know if the scouts just turn on the tape and then they go chill in the Bahamas somewhere and be like, yeah, I'm watching film. But some of these dudes, some of them get drafted in some of these positions. Like last year, the edge class was just crazy. All the guys that went in the first round that are, where are they at right now? Some of them ain't even on teams. I mean, so it's just crazy how these guys draft. So I feel like the Mendoza thing too is, a lot of people sleep on the fact that yes, he ran that RPO, yes, he played in the pistol, but I think they expect first overall picks just because you're drafted first overall to have no flaws, right? To have nothing to work on. You're supposed to come in, you're supposed to be perfect. But I've said this on this channel a million times. If you can name me one quarterback in the history of the NFL that came into the league that didn't have something they had to work on, that didn't have a flaw, right? That didn't have an issue, then we shouldn't be having this conversation. But every single quarterback that's ever came into the NFL has something they have had to get better on, right? They've had whether it's timing, whether it's reading defenses, whether it's just the speed of the game, whether it's footwork, whether it's mechanics they had to change. Every quarterback has had a flaw, and every quarterback coming out will have a flaw, whether it's Arch Manning, whether it's Trinidad Chambliss, right? Somebody's going to have a nitpick about somebody because everybody wants to be right and be like, oh, if I say this about this guy, then, and if it happens, I'm going to get famous and blow up, or, whatever their logic is. But I think they just nitpick too much at the little things. He panics in the pocket, right? Yeah. I mean, sometimes, but you can fix that, right? You can fix that. If most quarterbacks panic in the pocket, there's some guys, that are athletic and move around and, make those plays, but there's also guys like, Shador that take 25, yard sacks and murder your team in those situations because you're not, you're trying to make a play. So I see a guy that has the mobility to escape out of the pocket. He can throw on the run. not if he has to, but you know, you can teach guys to just keep your eyes upfield. Just trust the offensive line, the guys in front of you, and I believe he'll be fine. You know, I haven't heard too many quarterbacks. You know, we had last a couple years ago when Caleb Williams came out, right? They were talking about he was already doing installs, right? Had the system in, and he came in and struggled. I mean, to be honest, right? He came in and struggled, and he was already ahead of the curve, right? And you know, I just see Mendoza the way he prepares, right? The way he watches film, the way he worries about, you know, and a lot of these quarterbacks are selfish. Let's be honest, right? It's all about their yards, their highlights, their stats, right? And he's all about the team. He doesn't care if he throws for 500 yards. He doesn't care if he throws for 8 touchdowns, right? He's fine with throwing for 150 yards and have, you know, being 16 of 17 and having 1 touchdown and then win the game, right? So you don't get quarterbacks like that very often that are selfless, that are, you know, all about the team, and they're going to boost guys and build morale because they're not selfish, right? They're going to distribute the ball and move the ball around and get everybody involved. So yeah, I think that a lot of people that, you know, I hear all the talk about, you know, he hasn't taken any snaps in the gun. Is he going to be able to turn his back to the defense, find the open man, right? But all the talk so far is he's learning to hit, you know, his footwork's great from what I hear. He's picking it up really, really fast. And that just shows, you know, his work ethic, his character, and his mentality. And I think a lot of people look to, you know, size and speed and athletics. And a lot of those guys with the fastest, you know, the fastest 40 times are, you know, don't turn out to really, some of them, you know, a lot of them more than most turn out to be bust, right? They don't turn out to just because they have, you know, the best athletic scores or the best RAS scores, you know, you got to have that mentality. And I think that's the biggest part of playing quarterback in the NFL is mind strength. And I don't see a tougher, stronger competitor. He showed it in, you know, late games and games they were down, Iowa, the Penn State game, you know, the Miami game, even, you know, that touchdown run. He shows it when the pressure's on his shoulders. He's still the same person. He's still the same person. He doesn't look like his heart beat any faster, right? He's calm, he's cool, collective, and you can't teach those things. So the things that people talk about that he doesn't have, right? You know, doesn't have the strongest arm. Can he go through his progressions? You could teach that. You could teach that easily, but you can't teach the mental. You can't teach the physical, right? You can't teach the size at 6'5", you know, 230. He's hard to take down. He's hard to tackle, you know, so you can't teach on any of that. And I think that gives us a solid ass quarterback for a long, long time. That sounds like, you know, he might not ever be that top 10, top 5 guy, but I feel like he can be, right? There are many, many quarterbacks in this league, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, that stand in the pocket and were, you know, top 5 quarterbacks in their generation. So I don't know why he can't. I hear a lot of talk, you know, he'll never be that guy, or maybe he'll never be a top. I disagree. I think his character, his work ethic, you know, his will to want to win, for his teammates to want to win, I think it's going to carry this young man a long, long way. He has a great head on his shoulders, and, you know, just the things you can't teach.
Yeah, and honestly, most of the things that you said, and I know that wasn't you saying them as you, it was more you saying them as like what people judge him for. I know that. But a lot of what you said, I think is not even true. Like, doesn't have the ability to go through progressions. That's a blatant lie. I've seen time after time where his best throws, he's on his 3rd, 4th read in seconds. And a lot of times with quarterbacks, you don't even tell that they went through their reads because, you know, guys lined up on the right side, for example, they're not really turning their helmet. So they're actually looking both, you know, really quickly, and you don't see it because they don't move their head necessarily, or they do it very slightly because, you know, both guys are right there in their line of sight already. But Mendoza, at the end of the day, the reason why there's so many throws to his first read is because he is so good at just looking at the defensive alignment and noting this guy is going to get open. And wouldn't you know it, that's normally the right play. And people are like, well, that just means he can't go through progressions. What the hell are you talking about?
He doesn't have to.
That doesn't make any sense. That you're trying to tear down the guy because he's reading the defense, knows who's going to be open, gets it right immediately, and we're saying that's a negative? No, you're out of your damn mind. And the other thing is, he plays all these snaps out of shotgun. Have you watched college football the last 10 years or so? They all play out of shotgun all the time. In fact, I saw a tweet recently where somebody did the first overall picks and their percentage out of shotgun, and every single one, the first overall pick quarterback was over 13% out of shotgun in college. Of course it is, because if you watch college, they're mostly doing it. They're always out of shotgun, pistol, and
every team for forever. Like even the Ty Simpson talk, right? He had 50 snaps from under center. Mendoza had 11. I mean, it's not the hugest gap, right? It's not.
Sorry, I meant to say 15 not out of shotgun, not 15 under shotgun, but 15 not out of shotgun is what I meant to say. So all of them had 15% or lower not under shotgun, and that's college football. I mean, you got to never watch college football to say that, well, this guy, he can't play under center. Look at all these things out of shotgun. Dude, watch just about any team. Not every team, because, some don't do it, but most do. You look at all the first round quarterbacks. Dude, did you see Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss? I don't know if that guy ever played under center, and that's fine. Nobody cared because that's what everybody's doing. But when it comes to Mendoza, for whatever reason, we look at it and we're like, he doesn't play under center. Dude, none of them do. It's fine. But what happens when he does play under center? Well, we haven't seen it enough to say that, he's still great under center. But the other thing is this that I want to say is, what do people and I made a tweet about this like 2 weeks ago. We have devolved as football fans to believe that playing under center is like an entirely different sport than playing out of shotgun. And they're obviously not identical. But
it's a big change and a big difference. But yeah, it's not. I mean, you're still footwork. It's you're not catching the ball, and you got to learn to take snaps. But it's so easily taught, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's my point. Yeah, and they're obviously not identical. The big thing is footwork, like you said. You got to simultaneously just do your little step backs, if you will, backpedaling.
Going to the left, going to the right. Your back pedal.
Absolutely. And you obviously don't have to do that out of shotgun, but even in shotgun, people still mostly do that. They get the ball and they still backpedal, go to the side, left, right, bootleg immediately. And that's all, it all almost translates exactly to catching the ball. Now the other thing is there's a big difference being like catching the ball and, doing this. How do I say this? Like, just if you're handed something and tossed something, they're two very different things. How you go about getting the object that's being tossed or handed to you, but like they're similar. They're not overly different. They're similar. If somebody can catch a pass, they can get a handoff, or if somebody can get a handoff, they can catch a ball being tossed to them a few yards back, from a center. And I would even argue,
unless you got Kenny Pickett hands, it should be no problem. Yeah, taking, you got exactly. them little tiny hands. Like, it's hard to grip a football, but like he's got normal hands of like 10 and 3/8 or something. So he's got, big enough hands. It shouldn't be a problem taking snaps under center.
No, and I think the bigger thing too is I would assume, we don't know because it's not the NFL. College football to the NFL is not like this, but I would assume it's harder to learn shotgun. Like if you only played out of center, transitioning to shotgun football would be harder than only playing out of shotgun and transitioning to under center. And so it's like he did the thing that I can only assume is more difficult to learn. So of course you can play under center. I don't know. It's just silly to me,
Yeah. The only thing I question about Mendoza is, just the system that they ran. Did Kurt Signetti, were they just trying to win games? Obviously they're trying to win games. That's the way you keep your job, but I felt like they could have put them in, some different scenarios and situations just to help them for the next level. And I think, running constant RPOs, and one or two reads just didn't, I mean, it helped him. It helped his timing. It helped his accuracy, it helped all that. But I just felt like they could have did more, at Indiana to try to give them, prepare them for the NFL, right? That's your job as college coaches, I feel like, is to prepare these guys for the next level So if you're a college coach and you know what they run at the next level, why the hell are you not preparing your guy? You don't have to be every snap, but when you're up, when you're up 5 touchdowns or something, dude, have some snaps under center. Let them get that feel. And I think every team should do that, and just try to give their guys the best possible chance to succeed at the next level.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And like I said, a lot of this, we're kind of just theorizing because, to your point, we have not seen Mendoza do these things, but I mean, it's odd to me for the logic to be we haven't seen him do them,
So he
therefore
can't.
he cannot. Which I
He
know
can't
you're
do
not
these.
saying. Which
Yeah.
yeah, you're not saying, but people do say that often, and it's like
Like he
what are we
doesn't have
talking?
a ceiling. Like he doesn't like he like I think a lot of people feel like this is Mendoza's ceiling, and he's not going to get any better or develop. Which I just don't see that. Maybe athletic wise, but I just don't see a scenario where he doesn't get better and evolve. My biggest thing, because I was not on the Mendoza train. Let's be honest. Like I was team trade back from the jump, from the beginning, just because of the assets it can bring you. But then just looking around, the draft and looking at the teams and looking at the scenarios, I'm like, man, there's no way that we could trade back in this draft. It just doesn't. It's not feasible, right? It doesn't make sense, and and Mendoza was the guy. So the more and more, I mean, I watched every single snap, literally every single snap. You can go on YouTube, just the tape, and he shows every single snap Mendoza took through the whole entire season. I've watched that twice, man. I fell asleep watching it. I don't know how many times. So it could be just because he's so good, the tape's so boring. I'm like, okay,
It'd be like
okay.
that.
Like basically, if you watched 1 or 2 Mendoza games, you feel like you watched every single snap, because
Yeah.
Indiana, it was the same, bro. It was the same over and over again. Once in a while, he had to make a play with his legs, roll out of the pocket. But it was just robotic. It was robotic, and sometimes the film, it's not bad because it's boring. It's just that he's so damn good, it's boring, right? I mean, the passes are going to be there, the accuracy is going to be there, the back shoulder throws are there. Throwing from one hash to the sidelines, right behind the numbers, is damn good throws. So I think he can make all the throws. I think he can do all everything. I feel like the only question is, or the main question is, taking snaps behind center, and some of the pocket awareness. I watching all those things, I feel the same way. Like when the pocket does collapse, sometimes he does look like a deer in the headlights. Head down, eyes down. Just keep your eyes upfield, and they're gonna work on that, man. They're gonna,
Yeah.
they're gonna critique and nitpick every little problem that they think is gonna hurt him. The tapping the ball thing, that concerns me, right? I don't know how you take that out of a quarterback when every play, it's a lot. It's a lot. Before he throws, he's tapping the ball. I mean, it's consistent. That's a tick. Teams are going to bite on that. Is he good enough? Does he have strong enough arm, fast enough arm to get past teams knowing when he's going to throw? I have a question for that. So
That's
that's
fair.
good. That's going to be something that they're going to have to work on, and it's going to take time to get that out of your head. They've allowed him to do that so long that that's a bad habit that you're going to have to fix, because NFL, they're going to murder you on that. They're just going to sit back there and be like, okay, he's getting ready to throw a break on the ball, right? Especially in zone coverages, guys are going to eat that up in the NFL. So, and we've seen it a couple times, right? We've seen it in a couple of games where in the red zone a couple of times where he's thrown that quick outside ball, and they were just that close from taking it to the house. So, you got to work on that. That's a tell. But other than that, man, I think it's good enough arm strength. My critique was sometimes, it seems like after 40 yards, you lose velocity on the ball, right? It just, it shows you don't have the strongest arm, but within 25 to 30 yards, I don't see anybody that has a stronger arm, in my opinion. Like it comes out hot, right?
Oh yeah.
You can hear when they catch the ball, like it's hitting their hands. So, I feel like that's an asset that a lot of people overlook, being able to get the ball out, being able to have that velocity, being able to throw 1, 2, 3 balls, like have touch on the ball. I think that's things he's going to have to develop on and get better. But every quarterback has those flaws, man, and I just feel like that's all shit that is it's easily fixed. Not easily fixed, but with his mindset and all that, I think it's things they can get past. And if the Raiders didn't feel like they could get past the habits, they had, they wouldn't take him. They're not going to take him, right? I feel like maybe in the past, oh yeah, we would have took him, no problem. It doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter what. Like if Al Davis thought you were the guy, you were getting picked, right? We've heard the stories about the Lions GM trying to call Al Davis and say, don't take Jamarcus Russell, bro. Don't bring him in your building. And he thought he was lying to him. He's like, oh, you just want my pick, right? And ended up taking Jamarcus Russell. So, we've had those scenarios, but I think this is a way better, way more intelligent. I'm bought in on Spytek. I think this dude plays hardball when it comes to the draft. He's got a poker face. He doesn't give up anything. It's last year. I felt like I knew pretty much. I mean, I had Charles Grant, I had Jack Bish, I had Ashton Genty being 6th overall, right? I had all 3 of those coming to the Raiders, and a couple other guys that I thought might have landed, and it just didn't work out that way. But this year, bro, like last year I had some people I talked to, and I have a couple people that I talked to that have a little bit of insight or know some people, but this year they're like, bro, if I tell you something, it's going to be wrong. And I feel like the Raiders have tightened that part of it up. Like last year, it felt like everybody had a source, everybody had a leak, everybody had inside information to what they were doing. And a lot of it, a lot of those sources and leaks turned out to be true. And this year, ain't nobody hitting on nothing anytime. I mean, even the coaching, I heard people like, oh, it's a guarantee, they're taking this guy's, it's a wrap. He's the number one, the quarterback coach from the Broncos, right? He was first. Oh, they're taking that young guy, my sources tell me, Davis Webb, he's a lock, bro. They want Davis Webb. And then it was, the defensive coordinator for the Chargers, my sources tell me that he's not leaving the building. Like, this is their guy, bro. Like, and nobody has anything. And then, now that it's Clint Kubiak, that was everybody's number one guy, and they knew it was going to be him the whole time. So I was still on the, I'm not gonna lie. I wanted Mike LaFleur. Kubiak was my second. And I was like, if we get either one, I'm happy, because they're both offensive minds. They're both young, up and coming. They remind me of that Gruden style, so I would have been happy with either one, but it's going to be fun to watch the Cardinals over there because they seem to be making some crazy moves.
Yeah, I hear you. The Davis Webb thing is so funny because I'm pretty sure the dude had 3 years of coaching experience, none as offensive coordinator at all. And it's like, but just like, to be fair with Davis Webb, the fact that he even got any head coaching interviews, and he got a second one with the Raiders, which he was never going to get the job. But like,
and the Bills too. Didn't he have one with the Bills as well?
Yeah. The fact that he landed multiple head coach interviews shows how impressive he actually is. But it's, and people were comparing him to Sean McVay. Sean McVay had as many years as he had coaching experience at offensive coordinator alone. He was the offensive coordinator for 3 years before Sean McVay became
right. So Gruden too. They were comparing him to Gruden, like, oh, it's the next Gruden. They're going to take the youngest coach ever. I was like, Gruden was in other buildings, man. He was in there for a lot.
It's so weird.
Not just a quarterback, like.
But the fact that Davis Webb, like I said, that fact that he had any head coaching interviews, and he had a second one with the Raiders, which he was never going to get the job, but they brought him back. They found him that interesting and that good. That's volumes to how good he actually is as a coach, or appears to be. So good for him. But that's as far as it ever was going to go. I could argue, and I would argue, that it's miraculous it even made it that far. But that was crazy from the beginning.
I think, in my opinion, I feel like Spytek and Brady were kind of in on that. Let's bring in Davis Webb, and I think their plan kind of worked out exactly like they wanted to do. You get no more Sean Payton calling plays. Now you have this young quarterback guy, got promoted to the calling plays on the OC. Now he's the OC instead of the quarterback coach. It might have worked out in the Raiders' favor. I would much rather have a young guy like Davis Webb, who hasn't been in the league a long time, calling plays than Sean Payton. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that we face twice a year. So that could have also worked out in the Raiders' favor, man. Definitely.
For sure. And I do think he's going to be a good coach because, this is a guy
he's definitely in that circle. He's got his name in that circle where there's a lot of people, looking at him for sure.
Like, none of that was supposed to be slander. I hope everybody knows that. But it was just reality.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think anybody thought he was going to get, a head coaching job that early. That it just doesn't make sense. But um, so one more scenario, and then shit, it's almost 2 hours. Damn. One more scenario, and then we'll run a quick mock draft, and I'll get you out of here. But
yes, sir.
my last scenario for you, GM Coach Spytek, is I'm the head coach, and I'm thinking I love to run the football. I need another running back to complement Ashton Genty. Where do we take that guy? But I'm also looking at this offensive line. I'm looking at Charles Grant, and yes, everybody struggled last year. Can he make that leap this year? But I have my eye on this guy that only has 5 years experience. Played some basketball. Max Ehenekor, right? Now, I'm looking at this young man, and I think the Raiders. I have a feeling with Spytek. I know he's not a top 30 visit. I think they're trying to be sneaky with, who they take or where they take them. But anyways,
they usually are. Teams usually are. It's not often that they just go and pick their top 30 visits.
Yeah. And last year, I think they had 28 or 29 guys. I don't even think they brought in a full 30, and they took 3 out of those guys, and the rest of the guys weren't they weren't even, I don't think, on their board. I think they were just, kind of bring in and, hey, you played with this guy. What do you think about him? What's he like in the locker room? Because there was guys that were interviewed afterwards and like, yeah, I had a top 30 with the visit with the Vegas Raiders, and they were just like, what do you think about your boy that you played with? And I was like, damn, that's cold.
that is really cold.
Yeah, y'all just brought in a dude and was like, hey man, so ask you a couple questions, and then, oh, by the way, hey, you played with so and so. How's he in the locker room? What kind of character is he? And they asked me a lot of questions about this one player. I thought that was weird, and damn, heartless for them, but I like it. We're the Raiders. We gotta be like that. So if there's a scenario, man, where you're sitting at, say, maybe 28, which I could see somebody take him.
I can see him going in the first for sure. I think he's probably the second best tackle in the draft, behind Monroe Freeling. I don't think. Well, Fano is definitely not going to play tackle at the NFL level, and I don't think Miami.
Keep talking. I gotta grab something real quick from the door.
All right, so I'll just read some of the chat. Spoke to mostly right tackles, some that could transition inside the guard or even center. So, I'll speak about this more when Rebel comes back. I actually think the offensive line is very underrated. I think almost all of it had to do with the coaching. First of all, as bad as the offensive line was for the Raiders last year, you have to go out of your way to make that happen. Okay, we're talking about. Welcome back, Rebel. Talking about the Raiders offensive line. Answering the chat real quick. Raiders offensive line, I think, is very underrated. And when you look at last year, how bad they were historically bad. You have to go out of your way, and by out of your way, I mean coaching. You have to go out of your way to make any pro athletes look as bad as the Raiders offensive line looked last year.
Exactly.
And these guys, and some of these guys are like legitimate starting caliber guys in the NFL, but I'm saying any 5 pro offensive linemen, to make them look as bad as they did, you have to go out of your way. So, that's gone. That's been fixed. But then here's the big thing. Jordan Meredith, I think, is the key in this. And Jordan Meredith showed last year how different it is to play center than it is to play guard. I know a lot of people play Madden. They'll put their guards at center at guards, and it's the same thing. It's interchangeable. No, it is not. Not even close. And the reason why I say Jordan Meredith proved this is because if you look at the tape, Jordan Meredith, just as a blocker, he looked good blocking, okay? But he did not block like a center should block. He did not read defenses like a center should read defenses. He did not communicate well.
He was a fish out of water in a bad coaching system.
Exactly. So when you have that, and he looked good blocking when he was engaged, but he kind of rushed to engage, which you don't really do as a center. You kind of take a step back, or if you're supposed to kick to the left, then maybe you engage right away as you're kicking to the left or right, whatever the case may be. But Meredith blocked like a guard would block, and he did not communicate like a center would communicate. And then this caused, now people look at Jordan Meredith and they're like, oh, this guy can't block for shit. No, that's not true. He actually blocked really well last year. He just didn't block like a center should, and he didn't play like a center should. So now if you have Jordan Meredith, who played really good at guard in 2024, he's going back to guard. I think he's going to win the starting job opposite of JPJ. And you have two really good guards, assuming Jordan Meredith can get back to that 2024 form. It's because, you know, he might be mentally destroyed right now. You don't know. I hope not. I think we all hope not, but
I think Jordan Meredith
might be in his own head right now. So you have two good guards on this roster because he looked really good at guard in 2024. He looked really good at guard. Colton Miller is going to be healthy, and I only say healthy in quotes because it seems like every year we're looking at Colton Miller get hurt. So, you know, he's healthy for now, is what it is. I think your only question mark really is DJ Glaze.
Facts.
And I go back to saying if DJ Glaze, I haven't said this on here, but I've said personally before, if DJ Glaze is your worst offensive lineman on the line, you're not going to have 5 All-Pros on the offensive line. That is unrealistic. I know a lot of people think, well, this guy is not a Pro Bowler, so they should replace him.
The Patriots last year made it to the Super Bowl with 1 first-round tackle. The rest of that offensive line were 5th-round picks.
Yeah, so
from exactly, other teams that they put together.
Exactly. So when Glaze is a team's worst offensive lineman, notably so, by the way, I think you're in really good shape, you know? So the coaching, obviously, we don't know how far it's going to go, how intertwined everything's going to be, and how well, you know, he relates to the players and whatnot, being his first year coach for the Raiders. But to say it's going to be better than Pete Carroll's son is, without knowing what the future holds, you don't have a crystal ball.
You don't have to be a prophet to see that, is what you're saying.
Because Brendan Carroll, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't even blame Brendan Carroll for being as bad as he was. And the reason why I don't blame Brendan Carroll is because he was only there so Pete Carroll could be in control of everything. You know, it's his son. So ultimately it's Pete in control of his son, and Pete controls everything. So no, I don't blame Brendan Carroll because Brendan Carroll didn't hire himself. I think if Brendan Carroll interviewed somebody who had Brendan Carroll's experience, he would have turned them away himself and been like, dude, you're not qualified for this. You know what I'm saying? So I don't blame Brendan Carroll at all.
Nate as well.
But anyway, you have a guy who now is qualified and has experience and has actually a pretty good track record. And, you know, I also think that the scheme was also not really the players. None of the players were drafted last year to be in the scheme that they ran last year. I mean, even arguably the players that they selected in the draft. So you're going to go back to a more, because all of these guys who are currently starters, including Meredith, if Meredith does win the job, every single one of these guys were drafted to play in the scheme that they ran before Brendan Carroll came, which
they did okay in.
Exactly.
So Chip Kelly's scheme.
So all of these factors come in, right? And yeah, I think the offensive line is going to be just fine. And as far as Ashton Genty goes and like the run game, is Ashton Genty going to be a presence and stuff like that? Dude, he was a presence last year with the, and I don't know how he was a presence last year. He had 3 plays. This is including the reception. He had 3 plays that were 50+ yard touchdowns last year. So he was pretty freaking explosive last year.
Yep. So he don't have that burst. He's not explosive. It's like, come on, man, stop with the hate, dude. You're just mad because you didn't get Tedero McMillan at number 6, like, and you know, or whoever you wanted. Like, come on, man. Like Ashton Genty is a dog, bro. And now he's out there boxing, and now he got his hand-eye coordination going. Right?
His contact balance to me is already the best in the NFL. I mean,
easy to me.
Right off people. And I know a lot of people, if I say like, well, you know, 3 50+ yard touchdowns last season, people might be like, well, 2 of them were in the same game. Yeah, against the Houston freaking Texans. Like
that's one of the best defenses in football.
Like exactly. I just kind of
nobody was doing that against them.
2 against the Texans. Like
with the offensive line that was so bad. I said this yesterday, and I've been saying this a million times, right? An offensive line that was so bad that there have been reports by multiple people that came out after the season that said this offensive line was meeting on their own time to get better with Geno Smith. So shout out to Geno, you know, as bad as he was, and I talk a lot of shit about Geno, you know, that that's good shit right there. So to have your quarterback and your offensive line and have that character, right, and that fight and that will to want to get better because they don't even know they didn't know the system. They're like, we don't know what you're trying to accomplish, so we're just going to go practice on our own and try to get better at whatever it is you want us to do, which we don't know what it is.
And remember when I said you got to go out of your way to make 5 professional athletes look that bad? Yeah, you went out of your way so much that these guys had to meet up on their own time because they weren't being taught anything. So yeah, they went out of their way. That's why I cannot imagine that the line is going to be even close to as bad as it was last year. I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters up front or anything, but I think they're going to be plenty serviceable. And I say all this to say, like, to answer ultimately the question that you asked me before you left really quick, that if you pitch that to me about Max, drafting Max, I would be like, I hear you, but I actually think this group of offensive linemen is pretty solid. And I'm not saying that he can't be an upgrade, but I go back to the wide receiver thing and to the difference between, let's say, Denzel Boston, because I think he's a realistic guy who's going to go at the end of the first that you would trade up for. The difference between Denzel Boston to Trey Tucker, or Trey Tucker to Denzel Boston, rather, and let's say DJ Glaze to man, I always say his last name wrong. Say it for me. No, the Arizona State Max.
Oh, Max Vianacore?
Yeah, so going from Glaze to him, go back to Trey Tucker to Boston. It is a million times in favor of going Trey Tucker to Boston that upgrades your team. And that's the argument I would give you. And for the backup running back, me as the GM, personally, do I think Ashton Jeanty needs a running mate? No. I think you draft Ashton Jeanty because he doesn't. Now, you are the coach. You are Kubiak. Kubiak absolutely believes in it. So, you know what? As the GM who works in tandem with the coach, yeah, I'll get you one, man. Absolutely, I'll get you one. And I'll prioritize getting you one probably round 4 or so. We got 3 picks in round 4. Probably get you one over there. But me as myself, without you having that mindset that Jeanty needs a running mate, I don't believe he needs a running mate at all. He didn't need one at Boise State, and last year he showed he didn't really need one. Now, can we say that if you get him some fresh legs behind him to relieve him on downs, good things will happen? Sure, I'll concede that all day. But no, I don't think he needs one. But if you're Kubiak and you think that he needs one, yeah, absolutely. Listen to your head coach, because to shoot your head coach down like that over, you're going to waste a 4th round pick on a running back. Well, I don't mean waste.
I mean, you got 3 of them, and if you can get like a Nick Singleton or one of those guys that that's going to bring you Jonah Coleman, if you can get maybe one of those guys are in there in the 4th, I think it makes sense to
absolutely
just to have somebody. And just Ashton Jeanty last year, he had games where he got 10 touches, right? 12 touches, 17 touches. I think he only had 1 or 2 games where he had over 20 touches on the ground. So there's that too. But I just feel like you need that 1-2 punch. It would be nice to have a guy with elite speed, I think, out of the backfield that could hit the outside, on those outside runs. Because Ashton Jeanty's a 3-down back. I mean, he one of his knocks coming out of college was not being able to block, and I think he was one of the best blocking running backs in all of football last year. Like, the kid was physical for being 5'8". He was moving bodies, like, and that's a lot of things people overlook too. I mean, he can catch, he can block, and he can run, right? Now his vision, I thought, struggled a little bit. There was times where I did tape breakdown, and I'm like, why are you bouncing this into the inside? Or why are you bending it in? Just bounce it to the outside and go. You have the speed, you have the toughness. You're going to run over to DB, and he just run into contact a lot. But I don't know. I don't know if it was just the scheme or the system, or he thought maybe he had a hole in the offensive line blocked the wrong way, which is very possible. Those holes close really fast if you're blocking the wrong way. Or I've seen a lot of times where you got guys going different ways and he's going, like, getting the ball and like, wait, I thought the hole was supposed to be here. Like, why are you guys moving over here? So I think he had a lot of those scenarios where the offensive line wasn't great. But so I'm saying as a head, need our quarterback to be protected. Did I lose myself again?
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
Weird. So, I'm just saying as the head coach that we want to protect our quarterback, whether, who it is, one of the three, right? Doesn't matter. I
Yep.
think we'll be pretty decent with any of them. But we want to protect that quarterback, and we want to run the football. And I think DJ Glaze, brings us that. But I just think his footwork, a lot of times he was left on the outside. On, on the edge over there all by himself on the island. And I don't think that's, he's not athletic enough or his footwork's not tight enough. So if I could get, Miami at 30, if Miami's sitting there at 30, a team that, is in a rebuild, they more than likely they want to move off that pick and get some other picks. And a Maxi Hennecore is sitting there at 30. I'm calling them and saying, look, I know this is a huge draft next year, right? Would you take a third and, our third this year? Is that enough to move up? What is it? 6 spots. So I think, to move up 6 spots and to give up a pick next year and to get a guy that, has only 5 years experience, has huge upside, has great athleticism because of the ball, the ball skills playing basketball. He doesn't have a lot of bad habits because he's only played football for 5 years. I think if I'm Rick Dennison, I'm looking at this mammoth of a man on the right side and saying, I know what Clint Kubiak wants to do in the running game, and I know what he wants to do in the passing game. And I like Jordan Meredith. I like JPJ. I like Caleb Rogers, right? Whoever wins out. We know more than likely it's Tyler Lindenbaum and, Colton Miller are those guys. The rest, I think, are up for battle.
Yeah.
But if you're telling me that I can, that I could give up a third and a third next year or whatever it is, a second and a third next year and move up and get a guy like Maxi Hennecore with huge upside and have my offensive line, right side for the next 10 years, I think I'd do that. Because let me tell you this, because damn it, where'd my shit go? Oh, wait. Yeah. All right. Because I'm looking at this wide receiver class, right? And we talk about the safety class. And I know you're saying wide receiver is the biggest need as the GM, right? You want to give your guy, you want to give your guy that number one target, a guy that he can come in, develop in, day one, right off the rip. But I'm looking at this wide receiver class, and you got Carnell Tate going to be off the board. Jordan Tyson going to be off the board. Mekhi Lemon's going to be off the board. Omar Cooper is going to be off the board. That's 4 in the first round, right? And then my take on this is I feel KC Concepcion, Denzel Boston also are off the board at that scenario. I think there's 6 receivers that go in this first round. I
agree with you.
I feel there's a lot of receiver needs in this team. But then you're looking at, right, if those guys are gone, you're looking at Jeremy Bernard, which I have at 46. Then I'm looking at Deshaun Stribling, which I have at 53. I'm looking at Chris Bell, which I have at 58. I'm looking at Antonio Williams, which is right there. Chris Bell, him and Chris Bell, I have on that same list. That's all back of the second round. You're taking one of those guys at 36?
No, I'm not, because it's like I told you earlier that I have those 6 guys, the first 6 you named, all going in the first round. And as soon as 4 of them are gone, as soon as 5 of them are gone, I am trading up and I am grabbing the 6th right there. That's exactly why I told you that earlier, that would be my plan as GM.
So you think there's a guy, so you think there's a receiver, whether it's, Denzel Boston or KC Concepcion, that you have that high on your list? Because this is why I'm saying after that, because, I'm looking at guys like you said, Malachi Fields. I'm looking at a Ted Hurst that I could get probably in the 3rd round. They have him. I have him in the 80s, but I just think with the way the receiver class is going to go and the board's going to go, Charles Grant is a good right tackle. Charles Grant is drafted to be a left tackle. He doesn't play right tackle. He could, but he was drafted to be on the left side. Sorry, just answering that question. So we need a right tackle, and Dalton Wagner could be that guy. Maybe he beats out DJ Glaze. He's been on the practice squad for the last 3 years.
Look, here's
Arkansas Mauler, but look, I got Bryce Lance, Ted Hurst, Elijah Surratt, Malachi Fields, Jacoby Lane, Skylar Bell, Brennan Thompson, all of those guys with 3rd round grades, maybe back at a second. Like, so moving up for a receiver, what are we going to have to give to move up, and where are those receivers going to be?
Okay, so I'll answer this. Those guys, and I like a lot of those guys. Malachi Fields honestly might be my favorite receiver in this draft, and I would not be surprised if Malachi Fields ends up being the best, like as far as just individually the best wide receiver in this class. That genuinely would not shock me. Okay, and I'm not predicting that. I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me. But those guys do not transform the wide receiver room. None of those guys are guys that the defense has to pay attention to, or or to any magnitude. But those first 6 guys are guys that will absolutely completely transform it. And they're not all safety blankets. They're not all for Mendoza to just have someone to go through. You look at KC Concepcion, his big thing is the concentration drops. And that's honestly the exact opposite of what Mendoza would need for a safety blanket. But he is so good at creation. He is so good at creation. He just leaves defenders wondering what the hell happened. And when you have a guy like that, defenses have to commit 2 guys to him in zone or whatever it may be. They have to look out for him. At least 2 guys have their eyes on him. And that is completely transforming the wide receiver room, because nobody liked that. Trey Tucker is a guy that, for all intents and purposes,
I think Ted Hurst and Bryce Lance could be those guys where you're going to have to pay attention to and put 2 bodies on. Ted Hurst got that ability where
I love
that
Ted
quickness,
Hurst.
that burst, the hands, the speed.
I love Ted Hurst. I see, and this is because he plays at Georgia State and he hasn't played anybody that's, he had to put the moves on. It's kind of like the Calvin Johnson situation way back when he was drafted. Nobody has seen.
It's a good situation.
Nobody has seen the creation things that they can do. Is that because they can't do it, or is that because they haven't needed to, because they're playing guys that they don't need to get creative with?
You got to look at their quarterback too over there, and the fact that he could have transferred. I think he was offered over $1 million or around $1 million to transfer, and he stayed because I do believe there's a why do I keep forgetting? Hugh Jackson is there. That's what I want to say. I keep forgetting his damn name. Former Raiders head coach Hugh Jackson is there. So they have Hugh Jackson. They have their defensive back coach is another, I think, NFL guy. So they have, some NFL style shit going on over there. And I think that's why he stayed, for the development to learn and get better. But Hugh Jackson was on another podcaster, Protect the Shield. Shout out my guy, Chris. Oh, great interview, by the way. But yeah, he was on there and he was saying, they put him through the ringer, but they put him, everywhere. They lined him up in the backfield. They lined him up at the slot. They lined him up at the X, at the, at the Z. They put him everywhere. So, they ran him through the ringer. And he says this dude is an absolute dog, right? And, Hugh Jackson's coached in the NFL. So he's like, man, anybody that gets this kid is, it's a kid you're going to have to double team. You're going to have to pay attention to if you're on defense. So, if you can get guys like that, though, in the third, I just don't see you yourself, Spytek, giving up those draft capital that you love so much to go get that guy.
I mean,
listen, let me, as a coach, let me ask you this: if we're planning on sitting Mendoza for a year, we just get a quarterback receiver next year, right? I mean,
absolutely. But I would hit you with this. First of all, this receiver room is so bad that you could trade up for your guy, get one of those 6 guys, and then come back and draft a Ted Hurst, and then next year draft another receiver, because you got guys like Jack Besh and you got guys like Dante Thornton who have so much potential. But for right now, potential is just a word. They are so far from what they could be and what they frankly should be right now. They're so far from it. Doesn't mean that they won't ever get there, but that's the reality right now. You could literally draft a guy in the first round, at the tail end of the first round, a receiver. You could draft a Ted Hurst. You trade up again, maybe into the third, to get a Ted Hurst, and then you could draft a receiver next year.
Jacoby Lane.
All of it makes sense. It's bad. It's a bad receiver.
Jacoby Lane. I think this receiver class is being slept on. Really, I feel like there's a lot of damn good route runners. There's a whole bunch of speed in this class. I think a lot of their problems are maybe small hands and short arms. Like I think there's a lot of alligator receivers out here, but I think this receiver class is deep. I wouldn't be
Oh,
surprised
I
if
do. I do.
in the second, early in the second, if they just start popping off, popping off, popping off, and guys like Jacoby Lane, Ted Hurst, all these guys that are projected to go later, start balling at the end of the second, and then teams are stuck like, damn, we better get our receiver early in this third round because they're popping off quick. And then my other
And
pushback as the head coach would be
what's up?
the corner position, right? We don't have a true slot. We brought in Gerard Johnson. Is he going to play that nickel? Is he going to play the safety? Is he going to be a corner? Right? We don't have a true slot. And then you're looking at the defensive class, and you got Mensor Delane, Chris Johnson. I have in the first round in the 20s. I think he's a first round talent. Jerron McCoy. Now I guess he doesn't have the ACL injury, but he has another past injury from a surgery where they put a plug or something in his knee, and they're saying that he might have to have surgery on that and miss all of this year, and which I mean takes him out of the NFL draft completely, right? He's
Yeah.
Jermon McCoy, I don't think is in there, but you got Mensor Delane, you got Chris Johnson, Colton Hood, D'Angelo Pons, Avion Terrell, Brendan Cisse, and then it kind of falls off. I really liked Takario Davis. I think he, has a chance to be one of them ones. And then, later, I like guys like Julian Neal and Ephesians Pre-Sock. But so corner, I think corners, another thing where you're going to have to either take one early, move up and get one if you want that lockdown corner, or they're going to be gone by the third round. I mean, the top six, right? Mensor Delane, Chris Johnson, Colton Hood, take McCoy out of it. You could throw D'Angelo Pons in there, Avion Terrell, I guess, kind of slipping because of his 40 time. That doesn't help.
I just don't think it's that big of a need. Now, I got to say this, though. It 100% depends on how they look at Darian Porter. If they don't think Darian Porter is where he should be or anything close, then all of a sudden corner becomes an actual need. Because then you're looking at Eric Stokes and Teron Johnson, who's only going to play slot. And you're like, what do we do at the other cornerback opposite of Stokes? We don't have anything. And literally, like DeCamerion Richardson is the next guy up because we don't even have anything. Even if you like Porter and you're like, this guy is, he's our second starter, you still have nobody after Porter. So
they have that Chagazi Asan Asunim or whatever.
Yeah.
He played a little bit last year. He showed me a little bit of flash, like his toughness and his attitude. I think could go a long way, but I don't know if I don't think he's a guy you're putting in at that spot.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just
So yeah, I'm agreeing with you though. Like corner, if Darian Porter takes that next jump, then you're good. But then you still don't have no backups, right? And I'm saying this, but corner and safety, I feel is the need more than defensive tackle. Because
defensive tackle
defensive tackle, they're running a 3-4, which will be 25-30% of the time in your base defense, and then you're going to be in sub packages, right? You're going to be in a 4-2-5, you're going to be in nickel or dime or whatever it is. So you're going to need those defensive backs, and if you're looking at our defensive backs and you're going, okay, so cover guys, we have Eric Stokes, DeCamerion Richardson, and Darian Porter Jr. And the rest are downhill, tackle, stop the run. They're not cover guys. They're not turn your hips and run. They're not guys that can play in quarters and halves or
Well, to be honest with you, neither is DeCamerion. He's really not that kind of guy either. So that's even one less than what you said.
I feel like with his 4.3 speed and his hips have been getting better. I think he just didn't play last year because I don't know. I feel like it was something with Pete Carroll where he didn't like him. He traded Jacorian Bennett, right? I think he just do what all coaches do. They come in and they're like, okay, I'm a defensive guy. These defensive guys were drafted by another defensive coach, and I'm going to get rid of them and bring in my guys. And I think that's kind of where it fit. And then, That's why we didn't see DCAM play, because he brought in Kai Blue Kelly, and that was his guy. And Kai Blue Kelly was taking reps over Darian Porter, which should have never ever been the case. Darian Porter looked way better when he was out there, right? So I think that was a coach's thing. And hopefully DeCamarion Richardson, because he was a dog. Where was Maryland? I can't, but he was a dog in college, man.
Where did he go? Ole Miss, I think.
I can't remember where. I want to say one of those M's, Minnesota or Maryland, for some reason.
I think Ole Miss, but
yeah, man, he was he was a baller. He's got that speed. He's got the long arms, right? He's got big hands. His hips seem decent enough in coverage where, I mean. But yeah, like if he's not that guy, right, then you definitely need another corner. You got to bring in one. And I just, looking at this corner room, I just, maybe, like I said, maybe in the late rounds you could get one of those guys like, but I don't know. I feel like corner is a huge need. Like Colton Hood, more than likely, also a first round guy. And then it just, the talent just drops off big time after that.
I hear you. And just to address some comments, nose tackle won't be needed more than 12-15% of defensive snaps. That's obviously true as it pertains to like going on the field, but I don't even think it's needed, because you got guys like Adam Butler who played it in New England. You got a guy like Tonka Hemingway who you don't want him out there 100% of the time. He's not going to be out there 100% of the time.
Didn't he have 4 sacks in 4 games last year? 4 sacks in 5 games.
Yeah. He has nose tackle experience, and so like even when people talk like, well, they need a nose tackle because there's none on the roster, it's still like that's still not true. Like they have plenty of guys with experience.
Trevin May, who also that defensive line guy that can get to the quarterback, stop the run. I think he takes the next step.
And then most recent comment, Pete refused to play far too many of the roster assets. So the thing with Pete Carroll that I find interesting,
way too many.
I actually think I can't blame Pete Carroll for anything that he did in that regard. And the reason why I say that is be Pete Carroll, be 70, what is he, 73? Know that this is your last contract. This is it. You don't have tomorrow. So why are you going to play guys who you're developing for tomorrow? You're going to play guys who you feel are the best options for 2025, and that's it. And, you don't care about the future because you're not going to be here for the future. You're Pete Carroll. You're not John Spytek. And so in that regard, do I blame Pete Carroll for playing all the veterans and, not giving Porter minutes going with Q Blue, not giving the wide receivers reps going with Tyler Lockett? Do I blame him for that? No, of course not. Because honestly, he's just taking advantage of his own window, trying to secure his job for the future. And then in the future, worry about that. Hopefully things go. So I really don't blame Pete Carroll. It's easy to like look and be like, it's so stupid that he played all the veterans and he didn't play the young guys. Yeah, but Pete Carroll, 73 years old, he doesn't have tomorrow. Like he's not here for that. He's here for the Pete Carroll era, not the John Spytek era. So I don't blame Pete Carroll for that. I really don't. But
I blame Pete for that because as knowledge as you are about football, you should have seen the writing on the wall. Spytek has a way longer contract than you. You're at the end of your run. You got to know that bringing in Geno and sticking with Geno no matter what. When you had guys like Aiden O'Connell in the building that showed, they can play football, they can win you games, they can help your team. If they're not even if quarterbacks. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. It's just he was playing way better than Geno was. You stick with Geno, right? You stick with guys like a Landon Roberts, who I really didn't think did much when he was out there. But when Tommy Eichenberg was getting, what he was getting out there, the kid was flying around making plays. You don't pulling him in there. So I think Pete Carroll, knowing that this is probably your last opportunity and your last hurrah, you should have done everything possible to give this team the best chance to win, instead of having your favorites and coming in with blinders on saying, this is how I've done it before. It's how I've done it my whole career. And, it's gonna work. Every press conference, right? Well, I just don't know why it's so bad. I just never expected this. I just don't know what to say. My brain capacity doesn't work. I don't have the mental capacity to understand why this is not working. And I'm like, what are you saying in press conferences, bro? Like, I don't have the mental capacity to sit here and listen to you talk that bullshit. When, come on, man, you don't. I just have no idea why this is not working. For one, you have your hands in the offense, you have your hands in the defense. You're not letting nobody cook and do what assistant coaches do, what defensive coordinators do, what offensive coordinators do, their job. You want to have your hands in everything and put in guys, change the offensive line around that was, went from 24th in the NFL from this most of the season. From December on, they went from 24th to 13th in the NFL. They finished the season 13th in the NFL with that offensive line once they changed stuff around and got the Turners in there. And then you take that offensive line and you're like, well, they were ranked in, 13th to 15th in some categories, but I don't think that's good enough. Let's move everybody around different positions and let my son, coach the offensive line. So I blame Pete Carroll 1,000%.
That's the one thing I absolutely blame him for. And I've been very vocal about the whole, when Pete was super adamant about the JPJ Meredith switch, that never made sense to me. Meredith looked really good at guard. JPJ looked really good at center. And you're just going to be like, well, that may be true, and it's not broken, but let's fix it anyway.
It's not broken, but let's fix it now.
That never, ever made sense to me at all. And I mean, dude, and now hopefully Meredith's confidence isn't shot with that, because he actually looked really freaking good at guard the year before. Yeah. But other than that, I'm gonna be honest, like, I just feel like if you're Pete Carroll, like I said, I mean, it's irrelevant. It's already happened. It's done. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm with you on this offensive line, man. I'll give you my hot take. This is what I think is going to happen. If they don't go offensive line, I think Max Henniker, I just have this gut feeling that Spytek I think that's one of their guys where if he's there and it makes sense and they can get to him like at 30 with Miami, I just don't see him getting to 30. I think Max is off the board before then, just because those offensive linemen are, valuable and they're going to go quick. So, but if he's there at 30, I'd see a scenario where, he tries to move up and get one of those guys. But I'm looking at this offensive line, and Spytek drafted Charles Grant, right? He drafted Caleb Rogers. Those are his guys, right? Those are on his name. He's taking full responsibility for them. They're not going anywhere. So those are guys that he felt, were guys of the future. Charles Grant, I mean, when he was out there, he showed signs that he could be that guy. So good upside there. Caleb Rogers also showed signs that, that he should be that guy. I think he should be the starting right guard, really. Start the season with Caleb Rogers, let him rock. But looking at, just the way that they believe in their philosophy with everything, I would not be surprised if to start the season, you're looking at, Colton Miller, Burford that they brought in, Burford playing either left or right, Linderbaum at center, and then Jordan Meredith and Charles Grant. And I say that because Jordan Meredith has more experience than Caleb Rogers, has more experience than JPJ. He's not gonna give you those penalties or those unnecessary plays, right? That JPJ is going to give you. So, and with that experience, Charles Grant played his best, or DJ Glaze played his best football when Meredith was on the right side, right?
Yeah.
He got better the year before. His numbers weren't the greatest. He gave up a lot of sacks and pressures, but they got better. He got better. He wasn't just left on an island out there. And Jordan Meredith, 2 years ago was at the end of the season was graded at 80 in the pass blocking and 80 in run blocking. So, he was the 5th best guard in all of football 2 years ago.
Yeah.
How do you put that guy on the bench? So I believe Meredith gets the starting job. I just don't see a scenario where that big grown man is going to come out and get beat out by these young guys. I just
I
don't
agree.
I don't see it. He's like, bro, I'm 28 years old. I've been a UDFA. I've been on this team. I've been off this team, and you're going to have to kill me to get me off this field. I think Jordan Meredith just has that, that instinct in him. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's Meredith and Burford, just because you brought in a guy like Alex Kappa. Alex Kappa played last year because of the money he was making. Burford's making what, $3.5 million. You don't pay a guy $3.5 million to be a backup.
That's a good point.
You don't pay a guy that much money to be a backup. And that's what we said about Alex Kappa last year. Like, this dude's going to play just because the money they're making. Everybody else is making barely $1 million on that roster, right? And he's making $5. So, you're going to get out there and play. So I think that's a solid offensive line that gives Charles Grant the chance to sit behind Colton Miller and learn. And if anything happens to Colton Miller, Grant's ready. That gives JPJ to sit behind, whether they want him playing left or right, sit behind that guy, learn a little bit more, get healthy, right? Because we know the injuries, the concussions, all those things have been an issue. Coming off the injury last year, there's no reason to throw him into the fire if you don't have to. So let JPJ sit. You have damn good depth, right? That's that's a damn good offensive line I'm looking at. That's maybe top 15 in the league just before they start the season, just looking at that depth. And
that's exactly what I was saying. Like, I really am high on this offensive line. Not that I think they're going to be world beaters, but I think people are going to be very surprised because this offensive line has really good pieces. DJ Glaze is the big question mark, and the reason why I say that is because his rookie I'm disregarding last year. Like, that doesn't even count.
Can we just erase it from from everything like that? Yeah,
it means nothing.
This season was never happened. Never happened.
But Glaze, his rookie year, actually led all tackles and pressures. But what is very interesting about this is when he played the Steelers, he held TJ Watt to 0 pressures for the first time in 5 years in any singular game. TJ Watt, first time in 5 years. Yeah. Now, why is this important? Because we are looking at his potential in live action and not just theorizing what it could be, but we're saying and concluding the best of DJ Glaze that we have seen without theorizing, but actually we've seen in reality, held TJ Watt to 0 pressures. That is what DJ Glaze is capable of. And, you can be like, well, we don't get that often enough, and very fair, but you cannot take that and be like, well, we're looking at a guy who can hold TJ Watt to 0 pressures in a game. How many guys can do that? Apparently none in the last 5 years before that, so big freaking sentiment with Glaze. There's a lot of potential there that he's shown, not just he can theoretically become, but he has been at times. And if you get anything close to that level from DJ Glaze moderately consistently at any point, man, you're living in a great world. You're living in a great world.
Right? I'm still a big DJ Glaze fan, right? I feel like DJ Glaze, like the rest of the offensive line, was put in that scenario last year where, you can't. There's nothing you can do. It was a bad experiment. It was bad offensive line coaching. It was just bad all around coaching. I'll get off here in a second. I know you probably got to go. It's been forever.
So, no, I'm actually just reading the comments. So if it looks like I'm kind of
I didn't know if the lady was like, "Hey, man, it's been 3 hours. Come on." So, but yeah, man, I feel like DJ Glaze, he's a mule. He's a mule. There's a reason, Hondo Carpenter calls him the mule, right? He's big. He's got those long arms. He's got those big hands. They can be violent. And I think with the right coaching in the building, I wouldn't be surprised if DJ Glaze holds his own if if he's that guy out there this year.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's run a quick mock draft and then we'll get the hell off here.
All right, let's do it.
Wait, I don't know why I just did that. I already had one open. But yeah, man, I just feel, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a scenario where the Raiders move up, like you're saying, maybe if they feel a receiver is, that guy of the future and that's going to be the X and they, then he's worth those picks. because we heard Spytek say, right, that when asked about this draft and what is his outcome for the draft, that he said, we could walk away with the 10, we could walk away with the 10 picks we have. We could walk away with 12 or 14, or there's a scenario we could walk away with 4 players.
Yeah.
And that I was like, okay, like, you didn't have to say that, but why would you say that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
not something that you had to say. Why are you saying this? Like, are there really 4 players that you believe you would be happy walking away with? And who are those damn 4 players? like, wait, who are they? Right? Is it Tadarian Stukes, which we haven't got to, that defense, but is it one of those guys? I don't know. When you say stuff like that, like, I'm a very observant person. I have been my whole entire life, right? I pay attention to the small things that everybody seems to miss or overlook. I'm like, wait, no, that didn't sit right with me. Like, why are you throwing that out there? 4 players, like, bro, we have 67 players on the roster. We need 90 to get, just for camp. We still got a long way to go. If we're only drafting 4, that means you're bringing in 20 UDFAs. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's just way too many.
Yeah, Stukes is interesting. I was reading, I forget who said it, but they said one of the GMs told them that Stukes is their number 1 cornerback in the draft, and he's one of the best cornerback prospects that they've seen.
Said better than Caleb Downs. He said he's
yeah.
He said he's up there with Caleb Downs. I'm like, whoa. I mean, I like Tadarian Stukes. I really like him a lot. I kind of like AJ Halsey just because I know we don't need that thumper, but I feel like, he can cover and do the same as well.
Yeah, I agree.
But Stukes, man, he's, to be honest, his instincts were at the top. His ball skills, run support were, close to as good as it gets.
He seems to be a great prospect, no doubt.
The coverage skills is the only thing that that scared me, and the biggest thing, he's got 8.5-inch hands. Like, that's kind of small. Like, that's bottom of the line, bro. You're 6'1", you got 8.5-inch hands. So dudes, you're going up against guys like Denzel Boston and cats like this in the NFL. Like, I just don't know about that. That's kind of something that scares me a little bit. Let's pull up this share screen.
Let's do it. Let's do this mock. We're gonna run through it as in like computers picking, right? And we only have a select pool of players.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah, all right. Good.
Yeah, we'll do just us. We'll just do the Raiders.
Yeah. All right. Good. Because
everything else,
I hate like blind picking at like 36 when we haven't listed people who are gone, because then it's like you literally write any name there. Like.
Yeah. No, we'll do the legit one. I don't need this up anymore.
But yeah, Raiders look much improved, no doubt about it. They still I do think that there's still missing a little bit of
all right.
A little bit.
My damn computer is tripping. What just happened? Stop freezing. I think it's been on too long. NFL mock draft simulator. That's the one I want. Let's try this again.
Let's do it.
Okay, what is going on here? All right, let's try that again.
Stokes and Stukes tandem.
Oh. I don't know if it's going to let me do this mock draft. I think my internet just went crazy. I can't control this dang thing. All right, here we go. So, obviously, number 1 is
Mendoza, of course.
Let's see if I could change this damn format. Because I do not like this one.
Good suggestion.
Computer is just lagging. Where'd we go? Where'd we go?
Yeah, let's go with You want to go with Ty Simpson?
Yeah, man. I think that's a lock. We should lock it in. Ty Simpson is the pick, first overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's say we book that
Let's go.
now. All right, man. So Ty Simpson it is. We're gonna draft Ty Simpson. That's the Ty Simpson I know. So, I thought I went slower on this. We'll go back through the picks.
I can't even really see.
Can't
Wait,
see it.
hold on. It might be my fault though. No, I can see it a little bit. It's a little laggy.
All right, so first let's go through these picks. Let everybody.
AI suggested picks the hell out of my face.
I think it's lagging big time. I don't know what just happened. They cut my internet or something. All right, so Mendoza, David Bailey goes second. Arvell Reese goes third. Sonny Styles to the Tennessee Titans. Makes a lot of sense. Caleb Downs to the Giants makes even more sense. I don't know how you'd pass up on a prospect like that. This one is surprising. Reuben Bain Jr.
That would
to the Cleveland Browns.
That would honestly be insane for the Browns in a good way. I really feel that way.
Well, yeah, what's going on with your star player wanting out? I think that makes all the sense in the world.
I agree with you.
Spencer Fano went to Washington. I'm surprised at that. Mekhi Lemon to the Saints. I see
it. I see Cornell
Tell. Jeremiah Love to the Giants. He fell to 10. Francis Noah to the Dolphins. Nice. Ooh, the Cowboys take a chance on McCoy. That's crazy when you had Jordan Tyson right in front of you. Wow. All right, so Jordan Tyson goes to the Rams. That's filthy work.
It is filthy work.
That's filthy work. You cannot. Can we bypass that pick, NFL? Can we just skip that? You can't let that happen. Roger Goodell, do your job. Act like it's the Raiders and just veto that. Monroe Freeland makes sense to definitely for me for Baltimore. Mansour Delane, I can't believe he fell to 15 in this. That's nice. Kenyon Sadiq to the Jets. That is kind of surprising, but that makes sense too. You need a tight end. That speed is
makes
crazy.
A lot of sense, yeah.
Peter Woods goes 18. Keldick Falk. Thieneman falls to 20 in a trade, and he goes to the Chargers. No, we cannot have that. Casey Concepcion at 21 goes to the Steelers. Okay, I did not see that coming.
It's a good move.
I've heard everything but wide receiver for them. McWarren at 22, Cade McDonald to the Eagles. That makes sense. Caden Proctor is the other pick. Damn, they got both their tackles for. Oh no, they went.
Reuben Bain early.
Oh, Reuben Bain. Oh yeah. So Caden Proctor at 24. And I like this kid. If he can get down to a nice playing weight at like 340 or somewhere in there, 345. Because the kids played at 390, right? So
yeah, I like him.
Omar Cooper to the Bills. Ooh, that's filthy too. Caleb Lamo, I've heard a lot about that to San Francisco. TJ Parker, Caleb Banks to the Dolphins. Wow. In a trade, they moved up one spot. In Kansas City, they got their edge rusher like we were talking about earlier. I just feel like that's in the cards for them. And they got Akeem Mesidor at 30. That's
damn
filthy.
Patriots, man. They had to do it.
Patriots took Boston out. CJ Allen, Chris Johnson, Maxie Hennicore, gone. All our guys are gone. And this is what we have left. Blake Miller, Ty Simpson. Let's just go look at the wide receivers first. Chris Bell, 41.
I think you got to be out in this situation. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I think we got smoked.
Yeah, this is bad.
I'm not liking anybody on any of these. Can we trade back? All right, so trade offers are on the board. Let's look at them. We have 5 trade offers. Oh. The Cleveland Browns want to give us pick 39, pick 107 for pick 36. Move back 3 spots.
That makes
and pick up
all the sense in the world.
Pick up a 107. KC, damn, they're going crazy. Wants to give us 40, 109. which one was better? They want to give us 30.
Wait, what?
That's about the same.
The Browns.
It's about the
Browns
same.
is better.
The Browns want to give us 39 and 107, and they want to give us 40 and 109.
Yeah, they want to give us two worse ones.
Right? Kind of offer is that? And then Miami wants to squeeze up in there. They want to give us 43, 51, and 228.
43 and 51. I think you got to do that. I think you have to.
151. Sorry, 151. I apologize. Yeah, 51. I think we would have did that. We have to decline that one. I don't think that one's good. Atlanta wants to give us 48, 122, and 215.
Why are they just getting worse? They're progressively all getting worse.
Right? And Detroit wants to slide up in there and give us 50, 118, 128. I don't hate that. That's 14 spots.
You gotta do
back.
The Browns one. You gotta do the Browns one.
But man, you get 118 and 128. That's two more fourth round picks. That gives us five fourth rounds. We could squeeze back up into the third or second with those probably. You think the Browns?
I'd take the Browns. I think whoever you want to get here, you could still get here easy, and you just add a free fourth.
What's the chat saying? I can't see the chat.
Yeah, same. I can't see the
chat. Damn it.
I can check. Chat is saying trade short, then do it again, 2 or 3. So Boston with the Patriots, their fans will drink bars dry. Browns and then trade again. Yeah, everybody's saying Browns.
Trade again. All right, let's go with the Browns trade.
Good stuff, chat. Totally agree.
Good shit. What else we got? Suggesting. So they still want to give us 50. Wait, hold on. We got 5 more offers.
Who got off the board? I might want to pick here.
I
don't want to go receiver here, but this might be perfect. Like, I'm a big Cisse fan.
36. You like Brendan Cisse? I wouldn't mind that pick either at corner. I think that'd be a lockdown. So off the board, we traded back. They took Ty Simpson, Alabama. I mean, the Cleveland Browns took Alabama's Ty Simpson. That's shocking. You have to do it, man. That's shocking. And then Mason Thomas, Blake Miller was on the board. Damn, we could have got Blake Miller at 36. I wouldn't have minded that.
He was there, but
I wouldn't have minded that.
I think,
and so it's us.
I think probably like Cisse or go to all.
You want to look at all. Chase Benitez is there.
So Pregnon is so interesting.
I don't think we need a guard, but Pregnon and Basantes is both.
That's what it is. Like, they don't need a guard, but Pregnon is so good as a prospect, in my opinion. But I'd ultimately have to pass.
So you want to look at the trade offers? I think we got 5 more.
Yeah. Just look at them. But I think I'd go Cisse here.
44, 103. That gives us another fourth round. That would move back 4 spots for the
Giants.
Giants.
Might have to do that. Holy shit. I mean,
for the Jets, Minnesota wants to give us 49 and 97. Move back 10 spots and pick up early fourth.
No, I wouldn't, because Cisse would be at the top of my board right now, and I think you can get him going back 4. But I don't think you can get him going back 10.
So we got 50, 118, and 57 from Detroit. They want that pick. They want it bad. The Bears want to give us 57 and 89.
It's not bad, but I can't.
Yeah, that's 89. That gives us. I mean, that's early. Damn, that's the bottom of the 3rd round. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, but you're missing the Cisse, and if you do this,
you're missing.
The thing is, though, if you do this trade where you just trade back 4 spots and you get Cisse, you now have 5 4th-round picks. You can move back into the 3rd with ease and get another great player plus Cisse.
So take the Jets. You're the GM.
The Jets.
GM says take the Jets. We are moving back.
And you got your guy. And you got your guy. Cisse right here. That's
boom.
Easy money. But I think
so. Cisse, I would push back on Zion Young falling this far.
Yeah, I hear you, and I was about to say I might want to trade up in this area again.
You think we could trade up to 45? And no, they probably gonna. Yeah, it have to be 45 because I wouldn't. I see Baltimore taking Zion Young right here. In my opinion, if it was me and I'm in Baltimore, I'm taking that all day. You got what else we got?
And you,
Jacob Rodriguez. You got Jennings Dunker on the board. You got AJ Halsey.
I have to go see Sarah.
Um, trading Stukes. Our next pick is what 67.
I,
I think all those guys are gone. So you want Brandon Cisse?
yeah, I have to. I think he's a really good player, really good prospect, fills a need. It's kind of like what Spytek said before. Sometimes you have the best player on the board who happens to be in need in his perfect world, and I think this is actually kind of like that.
I mean, he's got elite man coverage, and I think that's the pick we need. You know, if we have to, maybe he could play safety. Wait, oh, I didn't stop it. Pause. Where's the pause button? Damn it, you bastard. Pause. Oh, he's gone.
So you know
Damn
what?
it,
You might.
Malachi Lawrence was on the board as well. Ooh,
Where does this mock have? Where does this site have Malachi Fields? Because I might want to trade up for Malachi Fields.
Malachi is
Way down more.
He's sitting at 65.
So he's the second receiver.
Yeah, Jeremy Bernard, Malachi Fields, Ted Hurst.
Yeah, I might try to trade up around here.
Ted Hurst, Elijah Surratt, Anthony Williams, Zachariah Branch, Skylar Bell, which I love Skylar Bell. I really think this kid has everything. I'm a big Deion Burks fan too. I know he's small. I think he could be better than Trey Tucker. I really feel like
you always double up, man. At this, you'll probably trade 2 4th-rounders right here. Like
Bryce Lance is also in there. What do we got? My team. Let's see what we're at. We have
trade 4 4th rounds.
So we have 67, 102, 103, 107, 117, and 134. Damn, we should get hired as the Raiders, bro. Y'all need
trade
us.
The 4th rounder. See if that goes through. Both of the 4th.
We're both available. Do you want to trade up to where we're at
trade
now?
both 4ths.
Trade both 4ths. All right, let's see who's behind us. Philadelphia is on the clock. I'm going to propose a trade to Philly.
I don't know why Philly would do this. I feel like Philly wants to stack the top end talent, but for the purposes of this mock, let's do it and then grab Malachi Fields.
I like that. Philly. Where's Philly? That's Pitt. There's Philly. All right. So Philly, we want. Where are we at? Pick 54?
Probably right around there.
Oh, shit. What just happened? All right. So pick 54, and we're willing to give up.
Both 4th-rounders.
We got a lot. We got 102, 103, 107, 117.
I guess start with the 2 worst ones and work your way up.
Let's try 107 and 117. Actually, this is allowing me to force the trade, so I'm gonna be greedy.
It looks like
I can't be too greedy, I guess. Yeah, we're gonna have to use that. I'll go 107 and 134.
It looks like it will go through.
That gives us you receive 76, you send. Okay, that's not enough. I don't want to do it dirty.
It's not enough? It's not letting you?
No, it's saying
I'll add like a 6.
plus 75. Let's throw the 7th round in there. Oh, that's good, man. That's good. Let's go with that. Trade complete.
And then Malachi Fields right here.
So we are selecting Malachi Fields off the board.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really, really good.
Yeah, I like that. We still have 67 right here, and we have a whole bunch of trade offers as well again.
Look at the board.
So we are let's see who went off. Oh, Ted Hurst is gone. Let me get rid of this. I want to see who was taken. from 44. We got CC. They got Lee Hunter, Christian Miller. He was still on the board. Oh, I guess we don't need to D-tackle. I'm not worried about that. Zion Young, I really would have liked to have. Pragon would have been nice, but I don't think there's anybody but Malachi Lawrence that I'm really hating coming off the board. So 54, we picked Malachi, Eli Stowers, Jennings Dunker, Jacob Rodriguez, and AJ Halsey. Those kind of suck coming off the board. Ted Hurst, Kamari Ramsey, Ramella Height. Ooh, those are some good cats gone. All right,
the Ted Hurst thing stinks because you actually could have double dipped receiver here, and we all could have been happy about the receiver room.
But good news. Traden Stokes is there. Traden Stokes.
That is true.
At safety, at 67. What players do we have? My picks. Where's my picks?
Go to Oh, you're at all.
We have Fernando, Cisse, and Fields. So we have our corner. I feel like safety is the pick here if I'm playing coach and devil's advocate.
Yeah, no, you could definitely go Stooks here.
Let's see what else we got. We got Stooks. We got our corner. We don't need a running back this early. Elijah Surratt would be nice to double down, but who else is on this board? I like Genesis there. Let's see what wide receivers are here. Jeremy Bernard. Skylar Branch at Skylar Bell at 89.
I think
Bryce Lance. I think we can get one of these cats. Oh no, we pick at 10. What's our next pick? 102?
I would go I'll go with Stooks here. That's a good pick.
Yeah, I think Stooks is the way to go. That locks down our defense. We have an elite cover corner. We have a guy that is versatile in the backfield. Let's lock it in. Antonio Williams gone. Genesis Smith. I really like Genesis, man. I really like him. Malik Muhammad, Bryce Lance. Ouch. Somebody traded up for him right before us. That hurt it. But that's all right. I think we can get another receiver still in there. Came off the board. So the Broncos got Bryce Lance. Ouch.
Thanks, yeah.
Ouch. That hurts. Stab me in my chest. What's wrong with y'all? That's horrible. All right, so we're picking at 102 and 103. As the coach, needing that other running back, I really like Mike Washington here, GM.
I haven't done my film review on him at all. So I don't.
6'2", 220 something pounds, ran a 4.340.
Go to receivers really quick.
We got Brandon Tom. Oh, let's Jacoby Lane. I like Jacoby
Lane.
You could, too.
Yeah, get your man.
Or Deshaun Stribling. We're picking at 103 as well. So we take best of player available at 102, or do we get our receiver here and then just take best at 103?
Get your man. You want the running back?
Yeah, I really think that running back Mike Washington would make a huge difference on this team, and this team would be nasty.
Get your man. Get your man.
So yep, appreciate it, GM. Let's roll with that. And now we have a whole bunch of trade offers again. Philly, wait, where are we at? What pick? We're at 103. Philly wants to give us. Okay, let's see who's on the board first. Check all. Ooh, Kalen Rutledge.
No wonder
I love him at a Georgia Tech, man. I think he reminds me of that JPJ, just dog physical mentality. Gonna play to the whistle, maybe through the whistle sometimes, which is not really a problem with that. Bud Clark is here. Bud Clark is here at 111. Isaiah World, Harold Perkins. I like that as well. I think receiver, man. Let's check that all again. don't think we really need a guard. I would love to have Kalen Rutledge, but then what does that do with a JPJ or a Meredith or a Rogers if he's one of those guys, right?
If anything, I would go Isaiah World and have him compete with Glaze.
That Isaiah World here.
I don't.
Because I do like. Let's go to tackle.
So realistically, you're probably going to carry 9 offensive linemen going into the season. So you got, let's say Meredith, JPJ. Let's say the starters, and let's just say for the sake of what I'm trying to say, JPJ is the other starter with Meredith, and then you got Bumford. You got who else you got? Why am I drawing a blank here? Oh, and then the 2 guys from last year, the 2 third-round picks last year. So those are 8. So Isaiah World can make sense. I mean, he would essentially be the swing tackle. I
like Isaiah World this early, but I feel if we don't take one of these wide receivers that are on here, we're gonna miss out and be stuck with
double dipping
with kind of a smaller guy. And then I also like Emil Wagner out of Notre Dame. He's that offensive lineman that is a defensive tackle, right? He's not. There's no extra body fat. He's bulked up. He's physical. I wouldn't mind taking him. He's ranked in the 200s here. I wouldn't mind taking our backup right tackle a little bit later. And I also like Markel Bell. Played in the national championship game for Miami. Tough, big, physical. I wouldn't mind him. Also there, or Isaiah World though too.
We might. So this might be my last pick as GM because I got getting the talk right now.
So it's wide receiver or offensive line, and wide receiver is let's put them both up together. So Brandon Thompson would be, but he's kind of a smaller guy, right? Isn't he a smaller cat? I don't have his stats right now. Isaiah World. So it looks like the offensive linemen look like they're more valuable than the receivers right now.
Give me like a 5-minute thing really quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So, all right, man. We got to get off here. I got to let this man go. We've been on for like 5 hours. I'm going to make the decision. And I think we can get one later. So I'm going to go get another wide receiver here. I'm really thinking. Let's go over these picks. All right. Give him a chance to come back. Fernando Mendoza, Brendan Cisse, Malachi Fields, Trayden Stukes, and Mike Washington. So the defense is good. I know a defensive tackle we can get later on I'd be happy with. We have 103 and 134. The receiver is projected 132. And the tackle that I really want is projected later. So the GM is not here. He has stepped away. And I'm going to make a pick and maybe fire this head coach. Yeah, I'm going Jacoby Lane here. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm drafting. I'm going against the GM. And now we are back on the clock with pick 134. And I think Markel Bell would be the pick here, but I like Emil Wagner better. So we'll wait till the GM gets back to talk about it. Hopefully he comes back. Change this damn thing somehow to this. No, to this. I don't know. Man, I appreciate y'all rocking with me this long. Y'all are crazy as hell. I don't know why y'all still here. I don't know why he's still here. I didn't know it's been 3 hours and 12 minutes, bro. I gotta let this man go. as soon as he comes back. So this is what we're looking at. Y'all can probably see a little bit better, right? Do we go defensive tackle here? I wouldn't mind a defensive tackle here. I think that makes sense. Let's look at DT. It's not letting me control the board. Damn it. All right, we'll go this way. It's fucking ads, flipping ads. Let's look at DT. Let's look at DT here. We got our corner. We got our safety. I think we're locked in at everything. I really like Xavier Harris here. That is my guy. If y'all watch this channel, y'all know I feel like he's slept on in this draft at DT. I really do. Chris McClellan is a Raider cat. Albert Regis. A lot of people have him higher than where he is listed. We pick again at what, 134? I said, my bad. 134. All right, so 134 it is. Yeah, I'm thinking best player available right here, y'all. And the best player available is Logan Jones out of Iowa. I wouldn't mind that. Except I really just don't feel we need that. So I'm doubling down on safety, and I'm taking Bud Clark here. We got both safeties. We are locked in on that. And that is our draft, man. That is our draft. Why isn't it showing? Okay. I guess we only did 4 rounds. Well, that helps him. He can go now. I'm sure he's been on here way too long. I always do that. No wonder I can't get guests on here. They can't get off the damn screen. But yeah, man, that's where we're at. We have Fernando Mendoza, Brandon Cisse, right? We have our corner strapped down as a B. Malachi Fields at 54 is a B. I think that's a damn good pick. Shout out to our GM. Traden Stukes, Arizona, another solid pick right there. That's a B. Mike Washington Jr. is a B. Jacoby Lane and Bud Clark. So we got an A- for Mendoza. And the rest are solid B's, man. And I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week. Shout out to the GM for his participation. Let me hide this. Oh, lottie dottie. Let me close this out. Yeah. See when he pops back up. All right, man. So I appreciate all y'all rocking with your guy this long, man. And I know it's been a long time. I didn't realize it was 3 hours. Probably over here destroying relationships. So, as soon as this man comes back, man, we will let him go. I will let all of y'all go. We are close to the draft. It is now 24 hours away. We will find out who is the pick. Will it be Mendoza? Duh, right? Or will it be somebody else? We don't know. But yeah, man, this has been fun. This has been fun. I like playing head coach. I like having a GM, somebody to push back on, somebody to go back and forth with. So yeah, man, I thought this was absolute fun. Hope y'all enjoyed it as well. We'll just stop sharing that. Sweet. So yeah, man. This has been a damn good, enlightening. Well, now I'm froze. Fuck my life. Seriously? Am I back? Am I not back? Yeah, thank everybody for being here. Let me get back to these comments. There are a lot. Holy shit. Why do I do this? I don't do this, my guy Lawrence. I'm just trying to do what I think best is best for the team. And you have some young cats that, when you have experienced guys, you put them in. And I believe Caleb Rogers is better than Jordan Meredith, his upside, his ceiling, all that. I agree 100%. But if you're trying to win, right? I know they say this is a rebuild, but I don't feel like it's a full rebuild. I feel like they are trying to win. And getting back in here, I don't feel like it's a full rebuild. I feel like they're trying to win, right? Every single game. You're gonna, it's a rebuild. Yes, we brought in new players, but I just feel like, when you have a new coaching staff, when you have a bunch of guys that haven't really done what they're been hired to do, right? We never seen Clint Kubiak be a head coach. We haven't seen, Rob Leonard be a defensive coordinator. We haven't seen, our OC be an OC, right? So we haven't seen any of these guys or what they can do. So there's always those questions about that. And shout out to what I got here. Damn, there's a lot of comments. Where all these comments come from? Shout out for the $2 holler, whoever that was. I don't know where it is, but I know I had a super chat somewhere. Blew right by it. And there are a whole bunch of comments that, man, if you got to get off here, I can let you get off here. I know it's been 3 hours. I told you it wasn't going to be that long, but, when it comes to football, we are definitely all caught up now. So the next time I have you on, I promise it will not be more than an hour.
No, you're good, dude. I love it.
Yeah. So, man, I thought it was, like I said, telling all these guys, I felt it was very interesting. I liked having the pushback. I thought it was fun.
Me too, man. I love it. I love it. Unfortunately, my wife is going through something right now. Neurological. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm a little slow after this, but yeah. So she's not feeling well right now. So I had to, attend to that.
Oh yeah, man. Well, I'll let you go over there and let you go and take care. It's been 3 hours. You done. You did all your work as a GM for today, and you can have the day off, my guy.
Awesome.
So
I'll be busy tomorrow.
But yeah, man. Yeah.
He already knows.
Yeah, you want to pull up? What are you doing tomorrow?
7 p.m., bro. I'm drafting.
Nice. Cool. So, yeah, we'll definitely get on. We got something planned for next week. We don't have a set date, so. Yeah, let everybody know what else you got going on, where to find you, and when you're going to start writing again, man. I missed the writing.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So suitedfootball.com, you can find our stat line. It's called True QB Stats, and it basically puts a quarterback in a box, and it's the stats are, I don't want to say theoretical stats because they're not, but it's basically judging if the quarterback made the right play. It doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter if the wide receiver, basically, let me put it like this. If the wide receiver drops a ball that they should have caught, it's plus for the quarterback. And if the wide receiver bails the quarterback out of a shitty pass or a shitty decision, it's a negative for the quarterback. It doesn't matter that it was a completion on the stat sheet. We're saying it doesn't matter, man. This is basically an attempt to bridge the gap between film, numbers, bridge the gap together. This is what this is. And like I said, suitedfootball.com, you guys can find that. And and as for the writing, I want to get back to it soon, man. The time when I decided to take a break, when I decided to leave Raider Ramble and all that stuff, I feel like it's one of those things, man. The timing hasn't worked yet, but like in life, as so often is the case, the timing's never going to be right. You just gotta get back on the horse, and then everything will work itself out. So I just gotta get back on the horse, man. The timing's never going to be right. If I'm waiting for the time to be right, I'm gonna be waiting forever, So I'll get back to that.
Yeah, man, it'll come. Definitely love the content, love the writing. And, if anybody's out there watching and needs a writer, man, hit this man up. Knows ball, Very, very interesting. Damn good GM, as y'all can see. So, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you having on. And
thank you, and thank you for the
prayers for the wife. Hope everything is good, and y'all stay blessed.
Thank you, man. Sure. Appreciate it. Always love coming on. I appreciate the chat for the best wishes to the wife, and appreciate you, man. Definitely next week. Looking forward to it, my man.
All right, man. You have a good one. Appreciate you. Sweet. All right, man. That was my guy, Alex Monfreda. Always, doing his thing. Damn good writer, reporter. So, y'all need to if y'all need a writer, right? One of these clats out here, ESPN, something, hit this man up. So I appreciate everything he does for the nation. Is he still there? Or did he dip? I don't know. Weird. All right, man, let's get to these chats and then I'll get out of here. Would be something surreal about running a tandem named Stokes and Stooks. I like that, man. Stokes and Stooks. Yeah. The double S, right? I suggest Mendoza to start. If he's the best guy, bro, I'm 100% for that. Chargers, no. Yeah, they stole our player. That was horrible. Steelers, do I like them? What? Steelers do like them some wide receivers. Yes, they do. And that would be a nice pickup for them. I believe if they bring Aaron Rodgers back, that's just the way to go. Proctor might need to become a guard unless he's going somewhere smash mouth. Yeah, if you go somewhere that's running a power scheme, and again, if he loses a little bit weight, I think he's a good enough athlete that he'll be fine. He'll be fine at tackle. He's just so damn big and physical that I just don't know how you move him to a guard, because if you put him at a guard, he's almost the guard and the center at the same time. So I think he'll be all right, man. Definitely if you're drafted to a team where you're not thrown into the fire right away, and you can learn a little bit. Boston with Patriots, their fans would be drinking the bars dry in celebrations. Yeah, I could see that in Boston. I could definitely see that. Browns and then trade. We got to that. Raiders met with Cisse at the combine and Pawns. And, from what I've heard, it was a damn good meeting with Cisse. They really like him. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Cisse is a Raider. I mean, he does have elite coverage skills, right? He has the size. He has the speed. And if you're looking for a guy that, has first round talent traits, it's Brandon Cisse, man. So I like it. Damn good GM from my guy. You can erase the Lawrence pick and stay paused. What? What you mean? Erase the Lawrence pick and stay paused. I don't know what that means. Trading back for Fields question. Not Lawrence. Wrong Malachi, I fear. I agree with that, Mike. I agree with that. The GM did his thing. Me as head coach, I pushed back. I gave my input. I as a head coach failed in that situation, not the GM, because I didn't know Malachi Fields was on the board, right? I was looking, or was he on the board? I think he was lower than that. I was looking at somebody else, I thought, and I could be wrong. But anyways, I'll take the credit for it. But the Malachi Fields pick, I like, bro. He's a strong physical receiver that can win on the X. Not the greatest route runner, but some people are just football players. And if you can, if you got guys in press coverage and you could just long arm them and knock them off balance, you're buying them, right? So I've seen a lot of things from Malachi Fields that I really, really like. Fields over Bernard, Branch, and Hurst. I think Hurst was gone, right? When we moved back to get Fields. I believe Bernard was gone as well, right? I think I could be wrong, but I think he was gone as well. Clark or trade down. There are other right tackle competitions options later. Yeah, I like Wagner, man. I think Wagner is a damn good prospect. Unfortunately, we got cut off on the 4th round. I'm stupid and I didn't know that I didn't pick all 7 rounds. So he's a project, but he's got damn good footwork. I like him because he's not, he's not just an overweight, a lot of extra body fat like most of these tackles. He's physical, right? He's cut up, he's chiseled, and he reminds me of, a guy on the other side that plays defensive tackle, right? That just is just rocked up. So I really like Wagner. I think he's a project, but I think he's a project that could come around and be a solid right tackle in the NFL. Buka Ritchie later rounds, and they are on the cheap. Willis is if you want a possible swing guard or guard conversion. I wouldn't mind Burke. I don't know anything about Rusi, to be honest. I'd be lying. I haven't watched any film. I don't know anything about that kid. Laor Wagner, if you want a project, and I think a project will be fine, right? Because we're not in win now mode, right? The Raiders know they have a rookie quarterback that is going to take time for him to develop, right? So I think we have time, right? We have time to develop that future right guard and let him compete with Wagner. I think, if I'm being honest, I think one of Wagner's biggest problems is there's no competition. He knows the job's his, right? He knows that, when Thayer Munford was here, at least he knew he had a swing tackle that could play left and right, and he had competition. But now he's looking at it and he's like, it's Dalton Wagner, bro. And Dalton Wagner, if you're listening, bro, step up, man. Push this man. I believe you could play the position too. I like Dalton Wagner, 6'8", 330-something pounds. The dude is a beast. Lane, Fields, and Thornton. So are you going after X by committee? Nope. I'm just bringing in players and letting them compete, right? And, maybe Thornton doesn't make the team, right? I'm sure Jacoby Lane would have something to say about that. And Fields, he might be that X guy. He might not. I would think Jacoby Lane would be that guy. And I would use Fields kind of like a Jack Besh. So yeah, we took 2 receivers. Appreciate. I like McClellan as well. Capehart is interesting. Eastern Cleveland, Green, and Vandenberg. I like Vandenberg. I wouldn't mind that. There's a lot of edge rushers that that have talent that could be those diamonds in the rough like a Crosby. Appreciate you, my guy. Appreciate you. Thank you for pulling up. Thank you for watching. Time for jokes and tokes and smokes. Let's go. I'm down for all 3 of those. If you got a joke, tell it. Excited for this. Nice. Deveni Tees, appreciate you. You ready for tomorrow's draft? Bro, I am over ready. I am past ready. I am overdue. I can't wait. Anxiety's through the roof. I just because I feel like there's a chance that our GM didn't do it in this draft, but I feel like there's a chance that the Raiders not feel like there's a chance. I know for a fact. A little birdie in my ear has told me the Raiders, they were highly disappointed. Not that they got Max back, but the fact that they lost that 14th overall pick. There's a reason they traded Max. They had plans for that pick. Now, what those plans are, I cannot divulge that information. But let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if they move back into the first round if the player that they really wanted in that scenario happens to be there. Just what I'm hearing. Think you have disabled it. What I do? I don't know what I did. Las Vegas Raiders, not nothing. San Francisco 49ers are better. Boo. The good deal. Trade for the future. We have Kurt, best quarterback in the draft, right? Right. Change for the future. Mendoza is weaker than usual. Number 1 options. But he's a certain starter that they can get now without leaving things all up in chance and waiting for another year more. I don't feel Mendoza is weaker than usual. I don't agree with that take. Let me ask you this. What can't Mendoza do that other quarterbacks can do? Besides, guys like Caleb Williams who are elite at escaping the pocket, moving off their spot, right? Evading tackles, right? Other than that, he can make every throw. He probably reads the field, pre-snap better than most quarterbacks that are already starters in this league. So, Cowboys love splashy moves. I got all that shit. Let's see. Carson Beck is in his 8th year playing college ball. What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, I don't know if that's a good or bad, Alec M, if you were dogging on him or not, but I mean, they said the same thing about a guy who's in Denver right now in Bo Nix, who had 895 college starts or whatever it was. The dude was in college football for 25 years, right? So that could be a good thing. A lot of people didn't have, there was only a handful of guys that I remember that had Bo Nix higher than everybody else. One was ECG at the time. Now it's Gridiron Apex, and shit. I think there's not a lot. There's not a lot in the community that I follow of guys I know that had Bo Nix up there. Right. A lot of people were hating on Bo Nix because of his age. So sometimes that experience transfers to being able to play right away, to being able to read defenses better. For you have 8 years of reading film instead of 15 games like some players of reading college film, and a couple as a backup. So how bad does talent fall off from the 3rd round? A lot, an awful lot. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm trying to get to all y'all shit. Could go O-line and corner. I like that. Chris Johnson. I say move back into the late and get Boston if he's there. I agree with that. I mean, if Boston's there and you don't feel like and you have your scouts and you trust in your scouts that they know what the other team's needs are and where they're going, and you have to get up and get them, I wouldn't be mad with going up and getting Boston. I wouldn't. Move up for Warren? Hell no. Okay. Pete and Gino, thanks for the number 1 pick. Right. Cooper has that speed as well. He does. I totally agree. It doesn't talent is the same as the UDFA after 5th round. But when does the talent the same? I don't understand that one. Trey Tucker, Thornton, Naylor. I think Naylor's making more. What do you mean? Last like our 7 million wide receiver room. So Jalen Naylor got over $30 million for 3 years. He's making 10 a season. So he's making money up there. He's making money up there. And yes, I did go back. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything in here. Stukes is really interesting, though there's a problem. He's got too many teams interested. Yeah, but where did they have him graded, right? Where did they have him graded? You maybe trading Stukes is the guy that they wanted, and they move back up into the 1st round or into the 2nd round to get, right? Maybe they pick at 36 and then they jump back into the 2nd round. Like I said, Spytek said he wouldn't be surprised with anything at this point. How do you feel drafting Ott? I love that. I love drafting Ott, putting him back with Fernando Mendoza. They were teammates back in the day. They have familiarity. I love that, Arnie Garza, and I like Jaden Ott. I think he's I don't know. I would take him. I would welcome him on my team. No problem. Raiders drafted Mendoza. I got that. Best kept secret. Oh, damn. I went way back. Holy shit. Rushing to overpay for someone who graded is almost worse as at the player at the position in the previous year. What was and utterly mind-boggling. Rushing. Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about? Who do we rush to overpay? It's crazy talk. Trading back for Fields and not get that. Get that. Faded Raider. What it do? What it do? All right, man. All right, man. I got to later, Gator. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all pulling up. Thanks for everybody that rocked with me, that hung in here, the whole time. 3 hours and 30 minutes is absolutely stupid to be on a live stream. But I wouldn't be surprised if I come back on in a couple hours and run a late night mock. So again, thank y'all for being here. Thanks for everybody that showed love to my brother and his sick wife. Appreciate you. And all your kind words. Y'all the greatest chat in YouTube. As always, thank my mods for having to mod this dreadfully hard chat to take care of. As always, man, watch after yourself, loved ones, and others, and always go Raiders. Raiders. Peace. Thanks to my guests and everybody.